She's just coming for you.
Welcome, the meeting is now called to order. Welcome to our November board meeting, and thank you for being here today. Ms. Burks finished her trial this morning, and she will join us shortly. Ms. Gaines, please introduce our visitor.
Good afternoon. I'll start over here with Barry Maka, our general counsel. Lee Pickle is director of internal audits. Kyle Owen, associate vice president for facility services. We also have with us today Randall Scott and Preston Scott, vice president Tony Goodmar. In this back corner we have Dr. David Croston, who's chair of the faculty senate, provost Betty Stewart, vice president Keith Lamb, Charles Frazier, who is the SGA observer today. And we have with us Dean James Johnston from the Gunn College of, I'm going to mess this up, Health Sciences and Human Services, Vice President Marilyn Foley, Mario Ramirez, who is Assistant Director of Student Development. Struggling a little today. With us Angie Ray, who is the Chair of the Staff Senate. Then over here in this corner we have Mark McClendon, who is Director of Institutional Research and Assessment. Dr. Robert Forster, who is Assistant Professor of Finance. Shayla Owens is our SGA President, and Cindy Ashlock, Executive Assistant to the President. Oh, I forgot Chris. I'm sorry. Chris Stovall, our Controller.
Well, just a reminder, this meeting is streamed live on the internet, so please silence or turn off your cell phones. As always, the chairs at the end of the table are for those who will make presentations. So, or answer questions during the meeting, please sit or stand there or speak up, as this will help the audio transmission. We provide an opportunity for public comment concerning agenda items at the beginning of each meeting, and no one is signed up, so we'll move on with the agenda. Item 1701, committee appointments. The new list of committee appointments is shown in the board book. Thank you all for agreeing to serve in this way and in this area. Our next item is 17-02, the university dashboard. Beginning in 2012, the administration developed a dashboard which contained measures that are important to the university. Since the time, the dashboard has been updated and presented to the board each November. The information is presented by the Department of Institutional Research and Assessment and is then reviewed by Dr. Shipley and the President's Cabinet. Dr. Shipley is going to make a few comments, and Mr. Mark McClendon, the Director of Institutional Research and Assessment, is also available to answer questions. Dr. Shipley.
Great. The attachment is under agenda attachments in your folder and shows you the new, the added parts of the dashboard. We took some parts off that I didn't feel were necessarily still pressing or still important to the state for review, and I wanted to add a section that reflected the growing residential nature of the campus. So you'll see a section under number 2, residential university experience, that begins to more closely track what we're doing to make this a leading residential experience. I will probably be asking Mark, and I'd like to thank Mark McClendon for helping with this dashboard. I'll probably be updating this again next year because we'll have our strategic plan completed, and we'd like some aspects of the strategic plan to be reflected in the dashboard, and I'd be happy to take any questions about what's on the dashboard now or our performance. The last thing I'd like to say is there are not a lot of COPLAC indicators to which we can compare on this dashboard, but I want to keep COPLAC next to our performance so that where we can compare, we do, and so we still have a column with COPLAC on it.
Are there any questions or comments? This item is presented as a point of information only, and no action is necessary. Our next item will be discussed in executive session later this afternoon, and the committee as a whole stands in recess until that time. We'll now move on to the regular committee business. The executive committee will come to order. Members of the committee joining me today are Mr. Crosno, Ms. Marks, and Ms. Burks will be here shortly. Our first item is 17-05, approval of the minutes of the executive committee meeting August 4th. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, they will stand approved as presented. Item 17-06, the Gunn College of Health Sciences and Human Services Building Design Review. Randall Scott and Associates have been working with the faculty and administration on the design of this new building. Mr. Scott is here to present the design. A copy of the presentation was sent to you last week for your review. Dr. Foley, please tell us where we are in the process and introduce Mr. Scott.
So I'm very pleased today to have our architect here. We've been working very closely with him over the past few months with Dr. Johnston and Dr. Stewart. and then his faculty to do the programming of what space they need. And we've gotten to the point now where we did the inside floor plans, and then he's done the outside. So today, that's what he's going to show you, is both things, the outside and the inside. And I think you'll be very pleased and excited. So with that, I'll let you.
Appreciate it, Dr. Boyd. Chairman Sanchez and board members, thank you very much for the privilege of being able to work with you and your staff, Dr. Johnston and Dr. Stewart and Dr. Fillet. Everybody really is just, you got a fantastic group of folks, and it's just really a privilege to be working on such a project. You may or may not know that we did the Sunwatcher Village project a little over a decade ago, and I think that's been a pretty successful project here for you. You worked with Dr. Lamb on that project, and back before he was elevated to the point that he was housing director at the time. We really enjoyed working with him. About 3 weeks ago, when I was here making this presentation to Dr. Shipley, I found a little card on her desk that talks about Midwestern State and goals, and it says reimagine Midwestern State. So that's what we've titled our presentation, and that's really, I would say that's really the impetus behind the design that we're going to show you today. Some of the things that were in this little card that folds out: charting Midwestern State's future, supporting an outstanding learning environment. We're working towards that in the proposed design. Creating a vibrant workplace so we can recruit faculty and staff to this project. Thinking about grads. Well, this project is for the students. That's who we're building it for. Who you're building it for. So we're looking at growth, retention, excellence, and performance. Attracting a broad array of MSU supporters and creating a compelling message for today's Midwestern State. And I'd say that last one is probably the most important one that we've thought about. When we're working with Dr. Johnston and his staff, really the key central focus of what he's looking for is a building that puts laboratories on display. And I can tell you, as a university architect that works on universities all over the state of Texas, and we have for the last 30 years, this is really where the industry is. That's where every health science and STEM building today that's being built is being built with those facilities on display behind glass, so students and visitors to the building can see what's going on. So transparency between departments was important. He wanted the health science professionals that were in each of the departments to be able to see what's going on in their peer departments. And so that's an important part of the design of the project. Activated teaming environments. So we needed to have really the most important thing that employers are looking for today, as we're told by academians. They're looking for people that can work in a team environment. And so there are a lot of spaces in this building that are designed, including the classrooms, to be used collaboratively, and it's different than the way that we grew up when we went to school. Cross-pollination between departments. As I said, being able to see into the other health sciences and be able to understand how their work relates to their work really helps widen their parameters and their understanding of the industry. From a site planning standpoint, the building is going to be one of the largest buildings on this campus, certainly one of the largest academic buildings, and so it warrants an appropriate stature, not something that's small and doesn't really make a statement, but something that really makes a statement for the largest college on this campus. It needs to respond to the STEM precinct because it's now creating that along with the engineering building in that area, and we're really focused on preserving green space. As master planners and campus architects on universities across the state, what we've found is universities are using up all their land, and there's a real movement to move parking and housing to the perimeter and close streets and allow and bring the campus back to the students, the green space back to the students. So outdoor placemaking and destination place, we've looked at doing that on the east side of the building, on the campus side, to create a place where students will want to come and be a part and be activated in that area. The building also creates a campus edge along Louis J. Rodriguez, which is across the street from the housing project that we did and just down the street from the new housing project. So the residential precinct really flows up through this building. It's also the corner where future commuter parking is going to occur, and so it becomes a really important first impression into the campus, and we've designed it to be so. It's part of a quad. It's part of a community with Dillard, Bridwell, and McCoy, And so that's an important aspect as well. We have parking for dental hygiene patients that will be coming to the first floor. It really is a first door to the campus. And we've worked very hard to bring in a human scale to the building. It's a 4-story building. So we've stepped that down, terraced it down around the perimeter, and created walkways, which we found on the campus as a contextual issue. Our 4 design tenets are timeless architecture, contextualism, sustainability, and innovation. I think you'll find that in the design of the project that we're showing today. In terms of the zoning of the project, we used the first floor is where we put the highest person traffic type of areas. So the 2 lobby atriums, of course, are there. There's a large student collaboration space at the base of the atriums. That's where the vertical circulation is. There's a learning stair there. Dental hygiene has to be there because patients are coming and going all day long there. We have a learning stair. It's really an area to be seen and see others. It's a public peer-to-peer space. Something that came into the project later on was towards the end of the food kiosk. There was a desire to have some way of students to be able to get something to eat because students come here and they're there 8 hours a day in the health professions. So when they break, they all break. And there needs to be plenty of collaboration space, place to get something to eat or drink in between. There's also the largest classroom in the building and 2 smaller classrooms that are primarily used by dental hygiene. An idea that came from Dr. Fillet, the outdoor classroom, which is a great idea. We've done those before. One that came from Provost Dr. Stewart was the multipurpose and events. So we had a large 80-person classroom that was right off of the atrium. The idea there was let's be able to open that up and create an events type of space with that atrium and that large classroom and the outdoor classroom. So it's a great opportunity. I thought it was a great idea myself. The catering kitchen was something that sort of has been in there from the get-go, and then of course public restrooms as well. The second and third floors are primarily the laboratories. So these are the laboratories on display. They are the surrounding spaces around the atrium so that you can see across and see into your peer health professions. So the second floor includes nursing simulation, radiological sciences, which is x-ray, respiratory care, and there's really a space that is probably the most important space in the building, and that's an interprofessional collaboration operating room. So all of the health professions that are in this building are going to collaborate in that room, and you can see in the design of the atrium, we sort of pulled that out a little bit to bring some additional emphasis to that. And then there are some classrooms on that floor. On the third floor, nursing skills labs, classrooms, more collaboration space for students. The social work department and also advising is on that floor. The fourth floor really is the lowest volume of traffic that will come to the building, and that's going to include the dean suite and really the offices for all of the departments other than nursing simulation. Nursing simulation, by the way, is currently off campus. We're bringing it on campus in this building. So I mentioned that as master planners of university campuses, one of the things that we focus on is trying to preserve green space. There's the verticality of the design of this project. It's 4 stories in height. That does a number of things for you. It preserves green space. It allows you opportunity for breathing around the building. It allows the opportunity for destination places and to activate that green space around the building. And it just keeps you from using up all of your land, which having worked here for over a decade, we can see how that land is becoming more and more precious and needs to be preserved. Again, the building has a very prominent stature as a result of the taller one. I think one of the key things that provides premium views for faculty and staff who are up there on that top level. So if you're trying to bring someone here and you're trying to get a donor, or you're trying to get a student and that you're interested in that's an honor student, taking them up to that 4th floor, they'll be able to see across the campus. They'll be able to see across into Wichita Falls downtown area. They'll be able to see virtually any direction in that, and that is something that is worth having. Our clients have asked us for that on a number of times. And I would just, one other thing is vertical expansion. And so this is something that I've been projecting that I think the building should be designed, if financially feasible, and if the university is interested in this, to add 2 floors into the future. And the reason for that is there's cost involved in building a building when your campus is completely covered, which yours pretty much is at this point. So if you're going to build something new, you're going to have to tear something down. You're going to have to build it somewhere else to make a space for the new building that you're going to build. There's a cost in that. There's a little bit of a cost in building the building to be able to expand vertically, but it's not nearly the cost of hopscotching buildings and having to relocate them. So in my opinion, as a master planner and a campus architect, university architect, I think it's worth considering putting the expansion capability to move the building up. So what that means is the structure has to be a little stronger. The utilities, the hot chilled water lines have to be a little bit bigger, and we have to bring a larger electrical service into the building. But when you get ready to add those 2 floors, you're not having to add those costs. You're not having to add foundation because your foundation is already there. So it'll be a less expensive expansion when you get ready to do that. The big idea. So the big idea here is the laboratory theater. This building is intended to be a theater in the round, if you will, with laboratories around all sides and a lot of glass inside. The atrium floor really functions as that collaboration lounge type space where these health profession students can get together in their what few breaks they get during the day at lunch or whatever. They're all out at the same time. Hopefully they'll cross-pollinate. They will have an opportunity to talk about what's happening in each other's profession. At least they'll get to know each other and they'll overhear what's happening in the other's lives. Exterior glazing, I would just say that as architects that do this for a living on university campuses, the impetus today is much more glass, much more transparency. You may be concerned about energy, but the glass today is just as efficient as brick or any other material. You can build a glass skyscraper in downtown New York City and make it a LEED Platinum building if you're familiar with sustainable design. So it's really about the way the project is designed. And that transparency really allows students to see into this project. When you build this building, you're going to repurpose Bridwell, and Bridwell is going to become a one-stop shop advising building. So every student on the campus is going to be going by this building at least twice a year, right? Once at the beginning and once at the end, and probably several times in between there. In addition to that, we know that commuter parking is going to be north of us, northwest, and west of us. So the vast majority of commuter students are going to be coming in from that northwest corner and going right by this building. So having glass in the building, have it transparent, having it visible at night and during the day really draws the students in. And this is the largest college on the campus, so why not? Let's make it where it's attractive for students to come in. Our design philosophy is, as I mentioned, our second design tenet is contextualism. So we're all about respecting the past of the architecture of the campus, but we also believe that we're designing for the future generations. And so the building can't be generally done exactly the way we did it in the past. It needs to look to the future. We need to think about who we're building this building for. We're building it for millennials. Actually, the millennials are now the faculty. They're the ones that are coming in and being built for the faculty. And the ones that we're designing this building for are the centennials, which are the Generation Z. They're the ones that are in high school right now. They've never seen anything but digital. Their entire lives, the whole world has been digital. There's never been anything non-digital for them. And they're about change, every one of them. They're interested in non-status quo, what's exciting. You know, their attention span's about that long. And so these are the people that we're designing for, both faculty and students. So I wanted to, I just got back from being on the committee for the Texas Facilities Conference for universities and colleges in Texas. And I took some photographs of some of the peer institutions, STEM buildings that are being built. And I thought you should see that because I think it really gives you a window into what's being built by your peer institutions. This is one this is a similar building as the one you're building at Texas A&M Commerce. This is a STEM building being built at Stephen F. Austin University. Note the amount of glass. This is at the University of Texas at Dallas. It's one of the STEM buildings that they're building right now. And this is a building that's being built at the University of Houston. So again, the openness, the atrium feel, the amount of glass that's in these buildings is just across the board. That's how they're being built today. So we want you to not be at a disadvantage from that standpoint. That's why I'm putting these slides in here for you. I spent a weekend looking at the campus, really studying the architecture of it, having worked here before over a decade ago. I had a good understanding of it, but I really wanted to really hone in on some of the details, some of the things about the campus, and things that I noticed were there are these arcades that sort of bring the scale of the building down. Of course, the use of the campus brick throughout. The white arches, both in the older and the new buildings, are consistent, and the Spanish tile roofs are consistent. There's a nice water feature in the center of campus, and I just really love this Spanish tile. It's on some of the older buildings in particular. We also looked at some of the newer buildings. They're a little less detailed. Probably, costs are requiring things to be less detailed today than they used to be. The arches seem to be consistent. We see those in both buildings that have been more recent. The use of a different color of glass in some cases, and the use of a different color of material has been brought in as well. So this is the site plan. The building is here. This is the future quad, Dillard, Bridwell, McCoy. This is the counseling center. We've shown McGahey removed because it'll have to get out of the way for this building to be built. This is our proposed new building. And I understand from the master plan that these 3 lots will be all future parking for commuters. So the building, you can tell, is really a gateway building into the campus for commuters. And the residential precinct is down here. So all of those students will be coming up this direction, either up Louis J. Rodriguez or up the future master planned pedestrian pathways here and here on either side of McCoy. So lots of traffic coming up to Bridwell from the residential precinct, if you will. The building will be just right in the center of all of it. It's such an important building, so the amount of transparency and glass there is important. You probably know, after having seen our designs previously, there's a glass atrium wall here that looks to the east. It will also shade students after about 11 o'clock out here on the plaza, which all of that faces towards the quad and the sister buildings that are out here neighboring. So it's designed to be facing that quad and to not use a lot of energy. Even though it has a lot of glass, the sun will be off that by 11 o'clock in the morning as a general rule. There's an outdoor classroom here that I mentioned that's outside of that 80-person classroom. We've got colonnades along the north and along the west side to bring people in at more of a human scale, scale the building down to something that we can relate to. It's tough to go up to a 4-story building and really feel welcome. One of the things that Dr. Shipley brought to our attention early in the design is she really wanted this side of the building to have an entrance to it. She was concerned that people at this building come in the back side of the building, that it faces Taft. It has all this great architecture out there, but the entrances that most people come into are the ones that are on the west side, I guess it is. And she didn't want that to feel like the back door. So we've added an atrium on this side. It's much more modest, but it creates a sense of entry, and it's sort of the demarcation point between students that are coming from the residential precinct from the south and from the community parking areas to the north, community parking areas. So the future of Midwestern State, that's what this talks about, starts today, and it begins with you. This is our proposed design on the east side. It's an atrium wall. The building, basically the laboratory is inside that wrap on all 3 sides. This side was left open, so all of that has views to the quad that's being created out here. We're preserving as many trees as possible. To my knowledge, we're only taking down 1 tree, possibly 2. I think there's one that's right in the nook of McGahey and one that's in the way of the corner of the building on the northeast. But we are utilizing the campus standard brick, the campus standard Spanish tile roof. We're using the white archways. So we're respecting the past, but we're looking to the future with the atrium wall and some new material here, which is a pre-finished aluminum panel that is around the outside of the atrium glass. On the west side, this is the west atrium that we've added. These are the walkways that come down and greet you down to more of a human scale. We're proposing introducing another new material called terracotta. Put those up there. This is my son Preston, by the way. He's the co-designer with me on this project and project coordinator and our business development director. So these are examples of terracotta. Terracotta is the same type of material that you get in those planters that you buy at the store. But it's a harder material. And so it's a clay product very much like brick, which is, and the orangish color really, we thought, tied in well with the campus standard brick. So when you see this material on the stairwells and along the walkways here, that's terracotta. This is the campus standard brick. Up here, the archways and Spanish tile roof. We're proposing on some masses here to use a white terracotta, which is the one in the middle on that three-stacked piece. It has, if you look at it closely, it's not a pure white. It has sort of a grayish speckle in it, which kind of tones it down so it's not overwhelmingly white. And that was something that the staff felt was better than the pure white, which they make. But we were just looking for a way to update the building, bring some new materials in, make it very transparent, and scale it down to the human scale as people walked up from the residential precinct and over here from the commuter parking space. So many students are going to be passing by this. This is Louis J. Rodriguez out here where the car is, by the way. And we've used some ribbon glass in a serpentine fashion over here where faculty offices and classrooms are, and there are classrooms and faculty offices here where this is as well. This is a daytime shot from the southwest. So again, Louis J. Rodriguez is here. This is from the residential precinct. That's McCoy there. So we've used a serpentine shape here just to kind of break up the rigidity of the building, make it a little friendlier. We've incorporated the cast stone arches. We've used some cast stone plinths on that. We've used the campus brick on the pilasters and created the arcade similar to some of the other buildings that I showed in the legacy projects that you have. And you can get a better feel for the white terracotta and the orange terracotta we've used on some of the vertical elements. The idea here is just to break up the massing of the building and to break up the materials a little bit, just to create some interest so it's just not so monochromatic, materialistic. What's being proposed here is a terracotta shading device. So it's very much like what's on this metal stand here. They're come in different shapes. And it's just a shading device on that west end. It creates a language. It sort of breaks the scale of that down to more of a human scale. And so that's a feature that we'd like to see happen there, if at all possible. This view is from the northwest. You can see the atrium wall in the daytime here. There's the arcade that walks around the north side. So students coming from, or folks who are coming to see the dental hygiene department would come here or come down this walkway. The entrance is on that side, or on this side. You go through the atrium to get to the dental hygiene department. Again, the scale there, trying to bring the scale of the building down to the human scale with the archway, the covered archway. This is a mechanical penthouse on the top. So we've got all of our equipment up on the top, makes it easy to maintain, keeps the noise level away from the rest of the building and vibration as well. And if we expand the building up in the future for those next two floors, we pick that up and we move it up to the top floor. That's how that works. These are stairwells. That's an outdoor balcony space, so they can, on the north side, which on a nice day would be very nice to go outside. There's one at the faculty level, one at the student level. These are primarily lab spaces, and that's why those windows are slits. They don't need a lot of light in there. We just kind of put them in places where we could fit them in between beds and storage areas and the like. And this is an areaway that goes down to the basement. That's where all the utilities coming in from Bridwell. This is the view from the quad on the east. And because you've recently changed your logo and your mascot to, I believe it's the Mustangs, I saw that on several buildings when I was walking around in my immersion tour on that weekend. And so I thought this might be a great opportunity for some Mustangs running through a 18-inch deep reflecting pond. Not something anybody could drown in, but just an opportunity. I know water's precious here, and I know it's a controversial thing to have. You have one already. 18 inches deep isn't going to use a lot of water. Just to be honest with you, there's a lot of water that comes off those HVAC units. I'm pretty sure we can fill that pool with the water that comes off of that. Even the evaporation that happens, it should fill itself. I haven't talked to Kyle about that yet. Got to give it a blessing, but I think that worked. Anyway, the idea of using your branding to create that, and if you think about this plaza being lit at night, and the horses running through, and water splashing up where their hoofs hit it, the light from the atrium coming out on that, it could be a great destination place, outdoor placemaking space at night. We have some virtual panoramas that we're going to show you on our Google phone apps. So what you can do is just put it up and you can look around and you can see all around the inside of the atrium, just wherever you want to see. But these are some still shots. This is the OR that's on the far side of the atrium. These are glass enclosed elevators, so we also have an animation of that I want to show you what it feels like to ride up in that glass elevator. Person's going to pass these around. You can just kind of look around.
So I'll just kind of give you an
Put up
overview
your
of
eyes
how these
and
work.
Look around.
If you're wearing glasses, they fit over the glasses, and you actually turn as if you're in the space, look up, look down, and you'll get to experience the entire building as if it's built today.
She's going to get the second slide. So this is dental hygiene down at the lower level. This is the operating room that I talked about that we popped out a little bit just to bring an emphasis for it. This is where every department in that building collaborates. It is the most immersive space in there. These are respiratory therapy areas. This is the skills lab for nursing. And these are offices on the upper floor. One of the things that we've been asked to do is to put some film up here so it'll be translucent glass. It won't be transparent glass so the faculty don't feel like they're in a fishbowl. I came up in the architecture building at A&M and they had faculty behind glass walls like that and they just papered them up. They just didn't want to be seen. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. So we thought we'd put the film up to the first two and then it'd be clear from above that. Can we get the animation shown? What I'm going to show you here is an animation of what it feels like riding up the elevator. The reason we put glass enclosed elevators in here is just so you get people that are experiencing the building can experience those laboratories as they're inside. So this is looking towards the quad to the east. That's the pop out of the OR over to the left. These are collaboration spaces for students on the 3rd and 4th floor. That's the Dean's Suite on the upper level of the 4th floor. These are faculty offices. Even had some elevator music in there. Run that one more time. Our renderer had some fun with this.
I know.
This is what we call a learning stair over here. So it'll be an opportunity for students not only to use the stairs, but there's some lounge areas to the right of that. And you can see the horses down here. What a great view that's going to be looking out onto the quad, particularly when it's activated. And I think the university is, thank you, Brett, working on getting a landscape architect involved to design that as we speak. This is what the view looks like from the northwest corner of the atrium floor. So this is what we call a learning stair, and it's adjacent to the stairs that go up through the building. And that students can lay down on that, they can just visit, they can see and be seen. This is really going to be a great space for students. And if you can imagine all the students in that building being let out at the same time, there's going to be a horde of people down here. They're going to be primarily female, and then there'll be some lounge spaces up here at the 3rd and the 4th floor. This is shown in this rendering. This is an early rendering. This is shown as glass. That's that 80-person classroom. It won't be glass, but it'll be solid, and it will open where that glass is, and that's where it will become just a great event space. So you'll be able to push all those tables and chairs into the furniture storage area, which is back here. Open that up, and there'll be a catering kitchen in there, so this becomes really just a huge event space. And you can go out into the quad, you can go out to the outdoor classroom that's just outside of that. And it's going to be an amazing space to be in. There's a kiosk, a food kiosk that tucks underneath this stair, by the way. These are the floor plans. I won't spend a great deal of time on them unless someone's interested, because I know I have a limited amount of time. But one thing to point out here is there is a data center. The campus data center is in this building. That's that brown room there, and it'll have an emergency generator that's set up just for it. This is the service court. There will be two generators, emergency generators out there. The gray area, public restrooms and telephone rooms, things like that. The purple, these are the large classrooms. That's the 80-person classroom that opens up to the event space. These are the two dental hygiene classrooms that are subdivided, and then this is dental hygiene here. So a person that's coming to dental hygiene will walk down here, come in this direction, and go in this door, or they'll come down this side, walk around here through the atrium, around here, and into this door. So that's how we get into dental hygiene. The idea there was we wanted them to experience the lobby, the atrium space. Second floor, red areas on the plans indicate collaborative spaces between all departments. So that's the OR, operating room, where everyone works together. These are the elevators that were in that video a minute ago. This is the glass wall that looks out east towards the atrium. These are the nursing simulation labs. So the labs are sawtoothed here to really bring emphasis to them. That's all glass on those corners. Same with respiratory care. Over here, there are two simulation labs there that open up onto the atrium. And then radiologic care is over here. That's x-ray. And this is primarily glass on this side. So they can all see into each other's departments and understand what happens relative to their department. That was second floor. This is third floor. This is nursing skills lab here. So we've got beds on the glass as well as around the perimeter. This is the area where we have those really skinny windows because there's just no place for windows, and they don't really need windows in there. They have head walls. It's like a hospital room, really. These are our classrooms, and you'll notice they're not 40 students facing the front of the room because it's just not done that way anymore. We've learned quite a while ago that students don't all learn the same way. Some learn in a group, some learn by themselves, some learn better on research on the internet, some with one-on-one instruction. So the idea here is the furniture will all be on casters, the chairs and the table, so they can instructor can rearrange it to the way that they teach best and in the way that they responds best to their students. The red areas here are classroom spaces and are jointly used by all departments. This is social work here in the green. This is advising in the blue. Again, this is on the third floor. The fourth floor is all faculty offices. You would come up the elevator here, up the grand staircase, which goes up all 4 floors. This is open space with a glass railing that overlooks the atrium on both the 3rd and the 4th floor. This is the nursing lab department. This is radiologic sciences, respiratory care, and this is the dean's suite. So the dean's suite will have a conference room that overlooks the quad, the atrium, and his office will look out over the campus academic core as well as Wichita Falls. So it'd be a great place for raising funds, selling to donors, getting students excited about coming to Midwestern State's HSC. This is the penthouse. That space that's on the top is that gray area. We have 2 large mechanical units that run all 4 floors, two per unit, 2 floors per unit. There's a basement here, which is where our utilities are coming in from Bridwell. This is a section through the building that just shows basically the classroom space on this side, and this is the atrium space with that learning stair and that sloping wall. So just a few things about the status of the project. Our budget is $29.25 million. We've had estimates done by both the construction manager at risk, which has been hired. His name is Sunt, and the local firm is Trinity Hughes. Thank you. And they've done an estimate. They say that we're in good shape. And our estimator is a little higher than that. We have to reconcile those two yet, and we haven't done that. We just got some information from both of them. We expect to have construction documents finished in June. We expect to start construction around August of 2017. We expect your move-in date to be around December 2018, give or take. And there's some final punch list things that have to be done that will probably roll over until January, but it should be in near the end of 2018. Creating a compelling message for today's Midwestern state is what we've all been about on this design of this project. It's about reimagining Midwestern State University. Thank you. Are there any questions that I can answer?
I do have a comment in the respect that I appreciate that you really truly have embraced the legacy of the past with the arches and the Spanish tile and our brick and our art, everything that is signature Midwestern state. But it's so appealing, and it just the contemporary style, I think, is just allowing us to see a new way to look at things. I do have a question, however.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to see it before. How many? This is very important. How many ladies' rooms are there in this facility? And I'm sure you've taken good care of that, but that's always an issue. It seems like when we.
That was a question that came up. Preston, can you go to the first one? And thank you. So these are the public restrooms here. What we heard from staff, faculty, I'm sorry, is that there are by far and away more female students in this building than male. And so on the first floor where we have dental hygiene and the public's coming to that, and we have classrooms that aren't gender specific or aren't leaning more towards the female gender, the restrooms here are both the same. So there are 3 toilets and 2 lavatories on this floor for women, and a urinal and 2 toilets for the men. On the upper floors, you'll see that the women's side has additional fixtures. They were even on the first floor. So we've added these 2 fixtures to the second, third, and fourth floors. And that's that sort of white projection that you see sticking out that goes up on the outside of the building. So we've added, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fixtures on the women's side, and just kept the same number of fixtures on the men's side as we went up into the laboratory spaces where they're more heavily geared towards female students. There's also a family restroom in here, which is dealing with the transgender issue that universities are having to deal with today. And there'll also be a baby changing station in there as well. So we're taking care of the unique aspects of that from there. That could be used by either gender.
The other question I have is the height of the building in comparison to the Legacy Hall. How high are we talking?
Let's see. Can you go to that section, Preston? It might be on that section. It's a little bit under. Well, I don't know if it's going to be.
The high point 177.
Yeah, that's in the penthouse up there. But so, what's this elevation right here? This
162.
So that's 62 feet above grade.
That's 160 to the roof. It's 145 to level 4 or
To the finished floor.
to the finished floor. 131. Oh, sorry. Those are based on a 100-foot starting point.
Yeah. So finished grade is going to be around 100 feet. We're going to be about 2 feet above grade at elevation 100. So it's about, I would say, about 65 feet to this Spanish tile roof. That small area that's the penthouse would be about another 15 feet taller than that. But it's sort of set back from the edge of the roof. I can't say how that relates to the other.
Probably know that number, but I think it's about the same height as Legacy, about 6 stories.
We've done a lot of residence halls, and residence halls have shorter floor-to-floor heights than academic buildings do, particularly when you're dealing with health sciences and you've got medical gases and more HVAC that's got to be handled with. So this building on a floor-to-floor basis will be taller than the floor-to-floors on that one, but I think it has more floors, does it not?
Yes.
It's got more than
5.
4. It's 5, so I'd say they're probably very close.
It'll be taller than Dillard and Bridwell that it's adjacent to.
Other questions for Mr. Scott? One short comment, I will tell you that, I guess, what do you call it, the learning steps?
Mhm.
So I was on a campus recently that has those huge campus. And as we were walking through, they said that was the most popular place
Yeah.
on the entire campus.
It is.
That at any given point in time, it didn't matter the time of day or night, that it was packed with students. So it's really nice.
Yeah, they're great.
So while no action is necessary at this time, this discussion is obviously very important as the project moves forward, so we appreciate your efforts. And I'd encourage you guys to, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 17-07, the MSU Deferred Maintenance Reports, Campus Condition Index. The reports included in the board book are required by statute and show deferred maintenance projects completed in FY16 as well as those planned for the next 5 years. Does anyone have questions for Kyle regarding these reports? This item is presented for information only and no action is necessary. Item 17-08, Campus Construction Update. The board book includes project status reports and smaller construction projects. Kyle, I believe you have photographs of current projects to share with us. Let's see transitions.
Okay, thank you. We'll start off with the student housing project, just briefly. Obviously, it's been occupied for the past several months, but we've since moved forward with some of the hardscaping, basically the concrete out in front. You can see sidewalk that's gone in along LJR. The northwest quadrant, or northeast quadrant, the concrete's been going in there, the hardscape. We're about 75% through the bid. And by the end of the calendar year, we should be through with all of it. And we've started some of the landscaping efforts, such as irrigation and topsoil on the LJR side, but that will continue into the spring because I'm going to be a good plant fire. And for the intramural athletic fields, you may recall at the last meeting we reviewed I showed you a completed version of the South Campus field. We were almost through with North Campus, but we've since finished it up. These are some rec sport areas as well as basketball court, 2 courts over there have been completed. And for the MassCom project, this is what it looked like last May. This is what it looked like last week. And you can see the building is certainly taking its shape and it's almost in the dry. We're supposed to start the masonry work here in the next few days. We're still on pace to get it substantially completed in January. It will not be occupied until next August. We have a lot of equipment we've got to add to it. So over the course of the following 6 months, all that will be populated a bit. This is another project that was almost through in early August last year, or this year. And since then, or actually before school started, we were able to complete it, parking lot, West Campus and lastly, the Jesse Rogers Promenade. You may recall it's back in here. We put it in several years ago. We wanted to extend it on to the north, and it has been finished up too. Any questions?
I have one. The athletic fields.
Yes, sir.
How have the students responded to that? I drove through campus the other night, and I mean, there were like 1 million kids on the fields. I mean, it was crazy.
That's kind of, we walk our dog up here a lot, and I see.
So you let them poop on the field?
Really? I can leave.
Okay.
We drink that. I get grief from my guys. No, they seem to be very well used. Keith may want to add to that.
Yes, they seem to have been very popular. We have a couple of students who can probably verify that. They are heavily used. This plate.
Anybody else have questions related to these items? This item is presented for information only and no action is necessary. Item 17-09, the Dallas-Fort Worth expansion update. Dr. Lamb, please provide us with the notes.
Good afternoon. So for the Dallas-Fort Worth update, there are really three areas that I would like to provide a quick update on. The status of our lease, the facility itself, and the courses that we'll be teaching beginning this spring, actually. The lease itself with Parker Assets, we're very close. There are a final couple of points that we're working on with them, but we expect to have that finished up very soon. In fact, I had a communication from them last night that they should have us their final points today. And so we feel very good about that and feel that that will be wrapped up very quickly. However, we have been working with their in-house architects on the design of the facility. We have a floor plan that we all agree upon, and all of us being Midwestern and North Central Texas College, that we are comfortable with and that we like. It's about 30,000 rentable square feet. And so now they are working on the MEP, the mechanical engineering and plumbing documents for the facility. Parker Assets, who is the owner of the facility, or the landlord, will be taking our the floor plan and the building site to the Flower Mound Planning and Zoning Commission on the 14th of November. And then very soon after that, they will go to a town council meeting for final approval. They expect to be under construction in January with a 7-month construction time frame to be ready for August of 17. And that is where we are at with the facility at this point. So we feel that's moving along fairly quickly. Very tight window, obviously, but one that the developer is comfortable with and feels that they can achieve. Courses, we'll actually be teaching 4 courses this spring in NCTC Flower Mound. Now, they're hybrid courses, and so they will largely be online, but each course will meet roughly 3 times per semester at NCTC Flower Mound's current location. And so we're already gearing up with that. They are health science courses. This fall, at this time at least, we are planning on offering, when we open the facility, education courses, and these are all degree completion courses: education, radiologic sciences, respiratory care, and nursing. And again, all degree completion courses that are that will benefit adult learners and transfer students. And other than that, we are really working on a lot of the details right now of the operations with NCTC.
Question for Keith in relation to this?
Cost of the facility. And so right now the lease as it stands would be the base lease, $16. It's a 10-year lease. Well,
Let me rephrase the question. Are there any big surprises cost-wise at this point?
Not at this one. Not in my opinion. Barry's been involved. I don't know if you've seen any Barry.
No, that's all.
Okay.
Question on so if they're gonna turn over the building to us in August, how are we gonna do, are we gonna pre-register for classes to be able to do that on site? Like, if there's a delay, are we gonna obviously have to have a contingency in that?
Yeah, we will. We'll actually start pre-registering this spring with our early registration for those courses. So that typically, oh gosh, I may get this wrong, but typically we begin pre-registering in April, I believe. And we should have a very, very good feel by then if it's going to be ready in August. They're fairly confident they can do it in 7 months.
And parking, we've looked at that, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be an issue. We're gonna have, I know we said originally we were gonna have specific assigned spots that would be for us for that building.
Well, and so the ratio they won't actually be assigned spots. We have a ratio of number of spaces to square feet, and it comes out to about 150 spots. So we'll have 150 spots within the development. Now, I say most. A large majority of our classes will be late afternoon and evening, likely, when other businesses are not in operation. And so we don't believe we will actually use all 150 spots at the outset. We'll grow into it over time. But because there will be more parking available, 150 spots as we go forward in the late afternoons and evenings, we feel pretty good about that. and so is the developer. That was one of the big discussion points we had with him.
Did we ever get a response on the entrance from that, like the street entrance? Are they gonna be able to do that? Because remember when we looked at the perspective, the photograph perspective, the only entrance was actually through the retail side. And we were gonna actually have the town parking lot with no direct entrance.
So the I'm trying to visualize this. The entrance that the main entrance is just to the west of our building. Right, I'm trying to be just to the west. So that will still be the main point of entry.
Okay, but originally when we had looked at the spot, if I'm remembering correctly, we were gonna build it, and so you would come into the main entrance, but that's not where you were going to be able to kind of access it. You're gonna have to go around and then come and park over here.
I see what you're saying. I think I understand. So you come in the main entrance, and as soon as you come in, you can veer off to the right, and that will take you to a parking lot right next to the building. And that's an existing parking lot, actually. It's not used, because it's kind of out there by itself, but the building will wrap around it.
There just was that one entrance, so they were not gonna be able to do one on the other side.
It doesn't look like they're going to be able to cut another one.
Any other questions related to this item? All right, well, these items presented for information only. No action is necessary. Item 17-10, campus plan, facilities services relocation alternatives. This is an item we've discussed previously. Dr. Shipley will make a few comments, and Mr. Owen will review the information in the board.
At previous meetings, we had talked to you about where we'd like facilities to be moved if we were able to get it out of the middle of campus. So our facility service building right now is right in the middle of campus, and that's not a great use of internal campus space. And we have presented one location to you over to the east of the Sykes House, and you had asked us to look at other locations. So what Kyle's going to show you are 3 total locations for the placement of the facilities building. We're not budgeting for this at this time, but it would be helpful for us to get your opinions on which of the 3 you like the best, so that when the time comes that we can budget for that, we have made decisions around that in the proper way. Kyle.
Okay, thank you. Thought we were gonna have a visual.
Well, I can refer people to the visuals in your agenda.
Okay, I'll talk through.
So if you look under the tab, let's see, is that executive attachments, some of those are right after, the construction project status report, and then you turn the page and you can begin to see some pictures, and there they are. Yes, please.
As far as the overview goes, as you said, last May we spoke about relocating us to the southeast corner campus. At that time, we also suggested look at some other options. So in August, we looked at one at West Campus Annex, of course, the one on here on Taft, another one on Sykes Lake area, or greenhouses we're calling it, and one on North Hempstead. And we wanted to look at some of the more details of at least 2 of the options and a modification on the Hempstead one. As far as the greenhouse option goes, I was prepared to kind of go through each one of these. Is that
Very briefly, they've seen them,
okay?
just the highs and the lows.
Greenhouse option is the lowest priced one, at least of the phase 1. It requires the facilities department to move into the Alumni Center, Sykes Lake Center, and Outdoor Rec. And while it is the least expensive of the options, from my perspective, it kind of makes us less efficient in our operations, and my preference would be not to go backwards. I would want to go forward and have more efficient operations, if at all possible, by keeping us located in one area. Now, we can achieve that, but it would require moving the greenhouse over by Sykes House and constructing a new building, which in turn jump this price up to more like $4.4 million. As far as the Taft Boulevard option, it's a $4.2 million option, and it does get us into one general location as opposed to 5 or 6 like the other one did. It does require the immediate relocation of Eternity Commons. You kind of have to wonder, that's the visible part of the university with Moffitt, Bolin, Ligon, and Hardin on it. Is that this an appropriate facility put there? And it's also, speaking of efficiency issues, it's a further path to travel for people within our department. So the last option we looked at is the modification of the North Hempstead. We placed it where the police department's going to be, that and beside it where 2525 Hempstead is. It's of the 3 fully completed projects, slightly less expensive because we're going to reuse some of the concrete from the parking lot from UPD doing that. It does provide us a secure facility for all our vehicles, and it gets all the personnel in one location. And some of the drawbacks are because it is right adjacent to the residential area. There's a house immediately to the south of that vehicle maintenance shop, and then due north of it also. The other 2 houses, the parking lot, or north of the parking lot, are ours. But it gives us better access because most of our work is on the north side of campus. We're not having to cross Midwestern Parkway with golf carts, and we'd all be in one location. The displacement of parking there is actually the UPD lot has about 111 spaces in it. We don't have 190. That would be if we added the 2525. We built the parking lot at the house that we bought 6-8 months ago. So it's not truly displacing 190 as of today, but with potential we could make that in the parking lot. However, keep in mind that once facility moves to this location, we could take down Marchman, and the yard where we currently save or store our vehicles could be turned into parking lots, so we gain about 80 spaces there. Any questions?
I see a university police department on here. Is that a new building for them?
Yes, it would be. Actually, it's
So it solves 2 problems that we've been
right.
addressing.
It's not new. It's a renovated version of the existing structure.
But better than what they have now.
That would be
Kyle, on the Hampstead Lane auction, the parking lot that's across Hampstead, that's a new lot?
Yes, that would be a new lot taking out 3 houses, 2 football and 1 that housing uses currently. And that would add roughly 60 plus spaces. The facilities personnel would use probably about 30 of those spaces if we were to actually occupy that entire complex. Now, we could eventually take out 2 houses to the west of that. There's 1 to the east, basically doubling the amount of parking shown.
So on that location, what is, across Hampstead, what does the university currently own? Anything other than what's shown in the new lot there?
The 2 that are right below that new lot,
Yeah.
those are ours.
Only the big
And
houses.
there's 1 that's not shown on the top of the page.
So it's two right here.
Yes, that's a driveway.
So Kyle really wanted to know, as he looked at all this, we felt like the last option he presented is the best for facilities and possibly the best for the campus. And as we continue to go through our planning and thinking about other buildings, we wanted your input today, if we could have it, on, as you look at these 3 options, is there one that you favor over the others? And this isn't for action, this is merely conversation.
So how are you planning on the 190 spaces that you're going to lose? You're going to be able to bring back,
Bring back 80 of them in the parking lot at Marchman and the existing Daniel Building Yard, as we call it. If you take out these 3 other houses, at least you see 2 of them here, that would add roughly 60, 65. So you're 145, 150.
But the 190 was projected spaces anyway. This doesn't propose to delete any parking on campus right now.
Correct. There are only 111 spaces available at the UPD lot right now. If you took out the house, I call it the OU house because they used to always fly there. All the reason to take it out, I didn't say it. But that lot would gain us about 80 spaces.
You'd net gain about 30 between losing the one and the other 2 you're net.
How did you look at taking these facilities and putting them on the north side of Hampstead and leaving this all as parking lots over here?
We had discussed that, it seemed like in May, and the general consensus was we did not favor that. But, I think because it would put this large, the vehicle shop is 20+ feet tall, and be right up against some of the homeowners, and there really wasn't enough space for all our facilities on the north side. In our yard, we had a lot of, about 65 spaces we need to have, and getting buses in and out of it was going to be a problem.
so is the only option on that parking, I'm sure you discussed it in detail about, obviously we're in the residential area. Is that a concern at all?
Well, we've felt quite a bit of encouragement from the board to begin to address how these houses are used. And that's all gonna be in the residential area. So we felt that,
As parking?
that we've heard from, we feel like we're hearing from the board that you're ready for us to begin to make some decisions, that we bought the houses, we didn't buy them in order to keep using them residentially. So I believe they were purchased with the thought that parking would someday be there, and we have nice ways to make parking look, as you've seen in the newest lot, so we can pretty them up, and we can also pretty up this facilities project so it doesn't destroy the neighborhood feel at all.
Is that house that on the corner still going to stay on the corner? I mean,
That's the
still-
police station.
It's going to be the police.
Okay.
That's what's gonna be made
That
into
will
the
be,
police
okay,
station. So it'll still look just like a house.
sure.
Yeah, I would envision any parking lot we put on the north side of Hempstead, we'd probably put a fence around it, just like we did on the lot on the west side
Across
of
from
the
Big
UPD.
Peter, the one, that type of a,
Oh, it wouldn't be that, it wouldn't be quite that
Oh,
one.
okay.
It would be more of a wooden fence, like it currently exists.
Well, we
on the
will
west side.
discuss what kind of fence we do. It might be a really nice fence.
Kyle, on the time that you save, I mean, like, so looking between the 3 options, this is substantial savings in relation to response time for your department.
Yes,
and the ability to
absolutely.
support the university.
Convenience, efficiency.
Definitely. There's really not a good path from that southeast location to North Campus, and I would just as soon not have another excuse for why somebody took them so long to get to point A.
Other questions for Kyle on this subject?
well, it appears, isn't this about our 3rd time to visit
Yes.
this? So it is time to move forward, so are
We're not
we
making a motion, you're just
but
advising
We're
us.
just saying that we can,
Could you live with this third option?
okay, and that's the main one that you want.
It would be my favorite option.
And we all like to make Kyle happy.
Well, this relates really, I think, as we discuss it as a board, this kind of relates back to our campus master plan. I mean, what they're trying to do is what we encourage universities to do, which is always be cognizant of the decisions that we're making and be forward thinking so that we're not having to rework later on. I think this is a very insightful approach to that. And, as Dr. Shipley mentioned, funding isn't available at the moment, so they're not ready to move forward. They just want to know, are we good with that if we are, so that they can start to plan in that direction. Yes, sir.
With a mind to safety, is this agreeable and a good thing for the police department? We didn't really discuss much about that.
We've talked to them quite a bit. Keith oversees them. Are the police department happy with this plan?
Yes, they are. They're happy with anything better than what they have. And so Chief Coggins has actually been through the facility and worked with our facility folks, and he's presented a fairly extensive plan to bring that house up to be a police station. And so we have a pretty good idea of what it will take. But yes, the answer is yes. He's very much in favor of a newer, better facility.
And as far as safety on campus and safety of our students, this would be an enhancement to that for the police department, not a detraction from
Yes.
it or
Right, yeah, absolutely. For their operations.
Right.
And it doesn't put them more than a block further away?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect their response time because typically they're patrolling campus anyway.
Okay.
It's a slightly larger facility too, than where they are.
With respect to this, to the large house that's still there, that clearly still is residential occupied, do we know that that's going to continue to be the case? I mean, is there been discussions about that?
This would be, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear it all. You're talking about this house here?
The large house that's on the corner there.
We haven't had any discussions we've had to purchase that property, and I don't really think it's our intention to move that direction either. Part of where the UPD station is going to be, we like the idea of leaving it looking like a house, so the residents on Glenwood will feel like we're encroaching on their property, and kind of the same position there with that house. As long as it's there, it helps kind of protect us from the rest of the residential area. But if we were going to purchase more property, I would envision it be to the east.
This way?
Toward
To the
Dillard.
top of the paper. And we do actually own the one that's barely shown there.
Other questions or concerns? No action is necessary at this time. Next item is 17-11, the Gun College Building Landscaping and Parking Project Authorization Request. The administration is requesting authorization to proceed with a $1.1 million project for parking and landscaping near the new Gun College Building as outlined in the board book. Dr. Foley, please explain.
You saw in the presentation that Randall Scott made, that quad area that's next to the new building, next to the new health science building. We'll pull it up here. This quad area here, right now there's a street that comes through. There are no sidewalks other than I think one sidewalk here. There's drainage avenues here. So to do this major landscape project of taking out the street and putting in new sidewalks and then the plaza, all of that is not part of the building budget. So what we did is we took the $58.4 million and like our residential Legacy Hall bond money, we did the same thing with the TRB bond money. We went ahead and did a flexible repurchase agreement, and we got almost 1% interest on it, which doesn't sound much, but it really is a lot of money. So over the course of the time we have this bond money and we're drawing it down over the next few years, we're earning about $1.1 million in interest. So that money, we have to use it on something that's TRB related. And so we thought being able to do this quad and as much parking as we can get done with that 1.1 million would be a good use. Otherwise, I mean, that's a lot of money to try to come up with to do a landscape project. So with your permission, we'd like to proceed. We've gone ahead and done an RFP for the landscape architect. So we're ready to move forward if you all will give us the okay on it.
Before we discuss further, can I have a motion to approve this item as presented?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion about what Dr. Blake presented?
And this would take place prior to the building starting, and it wouldn't be in the way of building the building.
We would do it after the building. So yeah, because they'll be having all that as lay down area. So it's kind of like we did with Legacy. You build the building first, then you go back in and do your hardscape and your landscape.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 17-12, the Central Campus Sidewalks Project. Funding for this project was approved as part of the overall HEAP budget for FY17. However, since the total project cost was more than $500,000, the contract must be authorized by the Board of Regents. The administration requests authorization for the president to finalize and sign this contract at a cost not to exceed $575,000. Dr. Foley, do you have any additional comments?
I think Kyle was gonna talk about
And
this.
then Kyle. Take it.
Sure. When we did the drinking maximum price for the Legacy Hall, in order to hedge our bets to make sure we had enough money, we de-scoped some of the landscaping and hardscaping from the project. And we wanted to wait till we got to the end of the project to make sure we had the funds available to do that work. And so, by the time we got to May, June timeframe, we realized we were going to have enough money available. And so we bid out the hardscape and landscaping separately. We got those bids back in late August after the last board meeting, and the pricing came in over the 500K limit that Dr. Shipley's authorized to sign for. And so we de-scoped the project in order to get moving on it because we were really evaluating weather time and brought it below the 500K limit. And removed some handicap parking spaces and three light poles to be able to make it work. And we're just asking for authorization to exceed the 500K amount so that we can proceed with the remainder of the project. The funds are available, so it's just your approval of spending more than 500K.
Before we discuss further, can I have a motion to approve this item as presented?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 17-13, the Wichita Falls Museum of Art and MSU Code of Ethics and Emergency Response and Disaster Preparedness Plan. These documents were included in the board book for your review. Mrs. Marks is our liaison with the Museum Advisory Board and will comment on this item.
All right. I hope you had the opportunity to take a look at either one or both of them. After I read them, I thought I could read them cover to cover if you would like, because it is such a dynamic reading. But the purpose of this is that the museum is currently trying to be excluded from the American Alliance Museum. And these are just two documents that are required. Just for your information, the University Police Chief Patrick Coggins has taken a look at one of them, the emergency response, and approved it, added whatever he wanted to, and then approved it. In addition, the Code of Ethics, I think Mr. Maka had an opportunity to take a look at that to make sure it was all in compliance as well. This went to the advisory board of the museum. The advisory board approved it, and all we're asking is that you ratify the actions of the advisory board.
Before we open the floor for discussion, can I have a motion to approve these documents as presented?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome to the board, Tiff. Item 17-14, museum ratification of deaccessioned artworks. The administration recommends the ratification of the deaccession of the items shown in the board. Can I have a motion to ratify these items as presented?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That
Tiffany
concludes-
needs to start voting.
I know. I just leaned over and said, I'm no help right now.
That concludes the business to come before this committee. The committee of the whole, the committee of the whole, the audit compliance and management review committee. All right, so academic and student affairs, Dr. Diggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee will now come to order. Members of the committee joining me today are Mr. Hessing, Ms. Marks, and Dr. Sweat. Our first item is 17-15, the approval of minutes of our committee meeting held August 4th, 2016. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, they will stand approved as presented. The next item is 17-16, the faculty report. Dr. David Carlston, Faculty Senate Chairman, will present the faculty report and will introduce our special faculty guest. Dr. Carlston.
Certainly appreciate the opportunity to share some perspectives and some thoughts from the faculty. I think it's always good to kind of look back at where we were 2 years ago. In this particular meeting, we were talking about faculty satisfaction survey, and there was a significant amount of concern regarding transparency, regarding collaboration on campus, and that certainly is not the case today. And one of the things that I think is important is that faculty have been interested and included in a variety of important processes on campus. Right now, we've got a couple of policies that are coming before us regarding Senate Bill 20, which is going to significantly affect not just the faculty, but all employees on campus. There's a very collaborative process. I'm actually going to have to step out to faculty Senate meeting to chair a session as we put together some of our initial responses to the draft policies. There's been a task force that's been put together for the admissions and recruiting, and looking at how we do admissions, recruiting, and scholarship awarding. Certainly we, as a faculty, are concerned about enrollment, concerned about the quality of students that we're receiving, and concerned about their ability to persist and continue throughout their academic careers. Also, faculty are very heavily involved in the strategic planning committee. I don't want to take too much of Dr. Stewart's thunder because I know she's going to report on that, but I do know that I can say this: the faculty that are involved in the process are very involved. I think some of the other faculty on campus, we haven't had how do I say this deftly? We may not have had a very active strategic plan in the past, or one that everyone has been aware of, or that we've actually kind of pursued. So I think there's a little bit of a wait and see kind of attitude from the general faculty, but I know Dr. Stewart will share some of the comments, but I think the degree to which we can develop a strategic plan that is followed, that is kind of front and center of what we do as a university, will certainly bring the faculty around, and they'll be even more involved in the next iteration of that planning. As I was preparing my remarks, I was thinking about going to the beach. not because this is an enjoyable place to be, but it's always fun to go to the beach because you watch people that aren't used to the ocean, and they'll go out in the waves, and especially young kids, they'll get knocked down and they'll stand back up, and by the time they finish kind of shaking their swimsuit out and getting the water out of their eyes, they get hit by the next wave that comes in, and it takes them a little while to learn that you got to deal with the wave that you just got hit by, as well as anticipate the next ones that are coming. And so some of the things that are certainly on the faculty's horizon are looking forward to summer school. We certainly, summer school is a vital part of our academic programming, and concerns about budgeting or opportunities there are certainly arising. Obviously, the political landscape of our nation as well as our state is changing, and so there's been a lot of conversation about accountability in higher education, about tenure. As a faculty, that certainly is something that gets our attention. I would certainly be more than welcome to share some perspectives from the faculty side about those things, about accountability, about tenure, and those kinds of processes, should I be asked. And then lastly, I think it's important to realize that we're not like other universities. We're not like the Pennsylvania State universities that are on strike, right? We're not like Harvard that's discontinuing soccer seasons. We're not University of New Mexico spending money to find Bigfoot, right? So and here in Texas, even though things may sometimes feel bad, we still spend more on education than prisons. So we're doing a pretty good job in that regard. And as a faculty, I think this is the time of year where things really buckle down, where all those great pedagogical ideas that you implemented at the beginning of the semester start piling up on you. But it's also a time where student projects and student endeavors are wrapping up, and so you have an opportunity to kind of see the student progress and success. So it's a very rewarding time for faculty. Any questions for me as the Faculty Senate Chair regarding faculty or any issues that we may be facing? Okay, but then what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce our faculty presenter, Robert Forrester. He's going to present briefly about 8 to 10 minutes about, let you know kind of who he is and what his role here is on campus. But just by way of introduction, I'll try and keep this relatively brief. Dr. Forrester teaches a number of courses in finance. His student evaluations are through the roof, which is probably why he received the Faculty of the Year Award from Dillard College of Business. He also received Faculty of the Year Award from the Student Government. So he's an excellent teacher. He has multiple papers published and presented in numerous places. One of the things that, as you listen to his presentation, you're going to see a slide that talks about the breadth and the impact of the work that he's doing, so please pay attention to that. He currently has 7 papers in various stages of completion, so he's a true academician in that regard. We always have multiple things going on. A couple things, again, to pay attention to in his presentation: working really hard to increase the efficiency in terms of course delivery, obviously the breadth and impact of his research. Dr. Forrester involves students in a number of different ways and brings in donations and opportunities for student learning that extend much farther than the classroom. And then also, at the end of this presentation, you'll see a number of slides that will kind of overwhelm you in terms of the text, but they're just an illustration of the amount of service and other non-classroom responsibilities that Dr. Forrester is carrying, as are all the other faculty. So with that, Dr. Forrester, if you want to come up and do your presentation. Sounds good. Thanks.
I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to come in and visit with you today, and we hope that we get to know you a little bit better. And as I know some of you already, it's just a pleasure to come here and talk to you. I misunderstood a little bit. I thought we had an hour and 20 minutes. That's where the lecture is, and I prepared this Locke very Volterra. It's a math model that I think you're really going to enjoy. So to start out, one of the things that they wanted me to do is talk to you a little bit about what motivated me to teach, because I'm actually, I began as a business person here. I've been in business. I moved here in 1979 and to Wichita Falls, and I've lived in Clay County, and I've owned businesses, several businesses around here since then. And my wife went to school here. I did my undergrad here. I did my master's here, and so I felt like this community has given me a lot. And so having taken classes here and from a lot of the professors, and having been with those students, I feel like I know the students, and I feel like I had some value that I could add. One of the things that I'm proud of is I got to participate in helping redesign a bookend course, this Foundations of Business course, which some of you have actually participated in and helped us with that class. And now it's university-wide. And then a strategic management class, which is the only other bookend. It's the capstone course for the business school. And I redesigned that course, and we took the MFT course is given in that. The MFT is our exit exam for the Dillard College of Business. We went from the 50th percentile to the 80th percentile in scores, and so I was proud of that. And now one of the things that they've allowed me to do is to move into finance. And so moving into finance has been great for me, but they've also let me help redesign a course in marketing. This promotions management class is a marketing class. And one of the problems that we had is we had some students that were marketing students that just couldn't get a job because they didn't have any experience, and they couldn't get experience because they didn't have a job. And so as I was president of the Red River Best Chevy Dealers, we decided what we'll do is we'll give them $2,500, and we'll let them create some radio ads, and we'll let them create a TV ad, and we'll let them do a little bit of social media. But at the same time, we put this twist in it where when you promote the product, you've also got to incorporate some corporate social responsibility. So we designed the new class and put it in play, and I funded it with $2,500 for the first year. But it went so well, we funded it with $5,000 a year every semester since then. And so it's one of the things that I like about that class is the students come away from it with a real learning. They embrace this corporate social responsibility. I'll tell you just a short story about that. The students were raising money. They were helping firefighters one year raising money. They were promoting a Silverado truck, but they had to raise some money. And so what they were doing is they had a truck that they were going to buy at a very discounted rate, and then they were going to all the money that was above that was going to go to the firefighters. So they got all of this money raised, and it was a tremendous project. And then some philanthropic person that actually won a brand new truck decided that they were going to give the truck back to the students. And they donated that truck back to the students, and some of the students were just crying. They couldn't believe how philanthropic, and the lessons you learn from that are not lessons that you get out of textbooks. And so it was a good experience for them, and every semester they have a really good experience out of that. Some of the other things that we're working on right now is the MBA program. We've got an energy concentration. So in the energy concentration, we're led by an energy board. One of the things that we wanted to do was to go to a conference. So when you're going to a commercial conference, one of the things that you have to do in that commercial conference is pay. It's a $1,000 entry fee to go to the conference per student, per professor. And so I contacted them, let them know we don't have that kind of budget. Is there any way? We just want to be around the professionals because this is a critical time in the energy industry. We want to learn more about it. And so they waived all the fees, paid for all of our meals, and let us come to the conference. And so that was good. But the Energy Board told us, they said, now you need software. It's important that you have drilling info because we use drilling info. And so you got to teach your students how to use that. So we checked on getting licenses for all the students and for ourselves. Software licenses were about $30,000. As an owner of a company, I called the other owner of the company and I said, we got problems. I have a very small budget. I've got a budget. I'm willing to give you all of my personal budget for it, but we just can't afford this. And he said, let me do this for you. We'll do a trade. I said, what's the trade? He said, you go to your energy board and you tell them what I've done. You let them know that I'm going to give this to you for free. For your students, it's a one-year license, but they waived the $30,000 fee and they let us have that license for all the students so we could learn this. So we felt very good about it. Some other things, we've got an advanced issues in corporate finance class. In that class, we do a case study every week, and at the end of it, we try to do a real live project. And so our real live project this year, we said, no, because this is a public institution, we have access to budgets and data. So we actually went to Maryland, and we went to Keith, and we worked with them, and we got a lot of data, and we spent hours and hours building hundreds of spreadsheets, looking at the feasibility analysis and the break-even analysis. We also learned a lot about sensitivity analysis and scenario analysis on what we were going to do on this DFW project. As students, they put this project together, and then they presented it at the end of the semester. And so it was a great project. Incidentally, it came out very favorable any way that we looked at it, so it was an excellent. I've worked on the British Studies program, and so we've increased the enrollment of that dramatically. And since I've moved, the last 2 years since I've been in the finance program, the finance major has increased by 50%, so maybe they won't run me out. Moving to research, and so on my research, I like to research in the area of minority-owned banks. I like to look at credit unions, and I like to look at angel investors. And so the angel investor paper that I did a lot of analysis on, this is the results of that paper. I uploaded it to Digital Commons. This is from my author dashboard, which is multiple pages, but on the author dashboard, I've had over 1,000 downloads of the paper. Last month, I had over 100 downloads. The downloads are coming from all over the world. Those primary downloads are not academic institutions. They're civic institutions and municipalities and commercial areas, and what they're wanting to know is, how can we do this same thing with angel investors that increases jobs in our area? So it's having some kind of impact. We work with Eureka. Eureka is undergraduate research. This is Dr. Martinez, who I've published a lot with, and this is Kurt Knobloch, who was on our last paper. We did a paper on oil prices and how it impacted the North Texas area. He was invited to present his research to the Federal Reserve in Dallas. We've got some other projects that we're working on, but a couple of them that you might be interested in is the economic impact of MSU on the local region and the economic impact of increased educational attainment levels of Hispanics on the Texas economy, but we've got some others. As far as service, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Here you are. You put all these hours in, and you come up and you do this. So we all do service. This is service to the college. Here's some things I do with service to the university, and I'm not going to go through all this because I realize that you do these same things. And then service to the community. I'm currently on a board for the Lighthouse for the Blind, but one of the things that I had a one-year term on the Federal Reserve. It's a very small role that I do with the Federal Reserve, and I'm in my 10th year of that one-year term. I don't think you can really get off those boards, but one of the things that they're doing right now, the 11th district, the Dallas district, is actually going to have a conference in Houston. It's the first time they're getting with the Kansas City branch, and they're meeting in Houston, and they're looking at the oil prices. And this is a by invitation only conference, and I've been invited to attend that conference next week, so I'll be down there for it. And that's pretty much everything I've got to make it. Do you have any questions? Thank you again for letting me come see you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Carlson and Dr. Forrester. Our next item is 17-17, staff report. Ms. Angie Ray, Chair of the MSU Staff Senate, will present her report and will introduce our special staff guest. Ms. Ray.
Hello, how's everyone doing? My name is Angie Ray. I'm the chair of the Staff Senate, and I also serve as the Associate Director of Residence Life and Housing. Is my real role. I want to kind of echo a little bit of what Dr. Carlson said about some of the transparency that we're seeing as a staff overall. We've been able to actively participate in the Strategic Planning Committee. I co-chaired with Dawn Fisher, our Director of Human Resource, the Fair Labor Standard Act. And so we presented that to Dr. Shipley a couple weeks ago, and then also some of our compliance committees. So the staff is very appreciative of the opportunities that we're getting to serve on some of those committees. We're also seeing some of the implementations of some of the committees that we served on last year as it relates to, maybe we want to talk about it, but like the campus carry. I get an awesome sign that I get to pull up in my door when I have disciplinary hearings now, and the budget oversight committee. So it's really good to actually be a part of those and see those actually happen and come to life on campus. We want to thank Dr. Shipley for providing funding again for our scholarship recipients. We had 2 recipients this fall who we just awarded a couple weeks ago. They are Ashley Statham and Shanna Toll, and they are both pursuing their master's degree programs here at MSU, and so they both received a $250 scholarship to help for their program. So that's a small recap of the staff and the Staff Senate going on this semester so far. I would like to introduce Mr. Mario Ramirez. He is going to come here to speak to us today. I do want to share a little bit about Mario. He was one of our past year's You Make a Difference winners, and so I want to read what he was nominated for. Mario consistently works as a team player and goes above and beyond to make students and families feel welcome on campus. Mario's customer service and dedication that makes a family feel like a part of Mustang's family. Mario also anticipates needs and acts as a problem solver for he encounters, and MSU is very lucky to have him. So before he starts, do you have any questions for the staff? And then have him get this presentation.
How's everyone doing? Like Angie said, my name is Mario Ramirez. I am a staff member here at MSU. I'm currently the Assistant Director for Student Development Orientation as of 2 months ago. Before that, I was the Activities Coordinator for Student Development Orientation. So this is just a little bit about me. I was born in Eagle Pass, Texas. Anybody know where Eagle Pass is? Yes, wow. No one ever does. So it's a little border town in Texas, and it borders Mexico. So I was born there, moved to Fort Worth, finished high school in there, and then I came to MSU here in 2007. So I've actually been in Wichita Falls since 2007. My wife, who I met in high school, Norma Ramirez, she is the Assistant Director over at Housing, Residence Life and Housing with Angie Ray. And we both live on campus, so I do kind of get a little kind of cool thing that I've done. I've lived pretty much on every building on campus because of that. So yeah, even Killingsworth legally, not sneaking. But I currently live in Legacy Hall, which by the way, we love it. It's really, really nice in there. Really new, really, students love it as well. We don't have any children yet, but we do have a dog named Zeus. That's him over there. Little Shih Tzu, you see him around campus, and he doesn't go to the fields. I know someone. Yeah. So, but yes, I started as a student activities coordinator, and now I'm the assistant director for student development orientation. Our office really builds upon being really student-centered, so that's one thing that I love the most. I did my degree here in music education, and I finished my master's in education leadership. I am proud to say that I am a first-generation student and Hispanic student, and first to go for my master's as well in my family. So I'm proud of that, and I'm looking forward to getting my doctorate hopefully in a few years, depending on how that goes. But definitely, I have been a big part of MSU. As an activities coordinator, like I said, we really did focus on a lot of student-centered activities. The University Programming Board, UPB, does a lot of the activities on campuses, from movies to Stampede Week, Family Day, Homecoming, all sorts of things like that. So I did help collaborate to get all these things together. So a lot of my job is revolving around students and doing things with them, events, all sorts of things, and leadership to promote student life and student involvement, which has a big part on campus impact. So, of course, I also help lead some of the multicultural and diversity initiatives on campus, like Hispanic Heritage Month, International Education Week, which it's happening, I believe, this week and next week. Actually, this week. Black History Month, Women's History Month, and other multicultural and diversity events. One of the biggest things that I love about working with students is getting them involved on campus. So when they're not focusing on academics, we want them to make sure to get involved, to do leadership, to learn other skills that are going to be useful for their careers. So that's something that I really push for. I like to push them out of their comfort zones and explore. We have a lot of different diversity on campus, from student organizations to, in general, diversity with students. So we should make sure that our students are doing that and experience that to their full potential. As the assistant director, I have recently switched over to that. Mainly, one of the biggest part that I do is working with my fraternity and sorority life community. IFC, which is the Interfraternal Council, MGC, Multicultural Greek Council, and Panhellenic, which is NPC, Panhellenic Council, National Panhellenic Council, sorry. So I do enjoy working with those students. I'm working with them at a different potential now. With student organizations, so we have over 100 student organizations that we oversee through our office. So we really enjoy, our office gets students involved and gets them in leadership positions like that. Advising development, working with a different advisor, so making sure that the advisors know how to lead these students into a further career, more leadership training like that. So we also provide some programs, leadership programs through our office that we help collaborate with. Volunteer MSU. Volunteer MSU is a really big thing at MSU. This is what drives a lot of the volunteer on campus, volunteer in Wichita Falls in general. Of course, we have different multicultural organizations. The Waiken is actually under the assistant director as well, so that's our yearbook. We still have a yearbook, but we do it online now, so you can actually view that. We don't actually print the exact books anymore, but we still have that, and that's a really great tradition that we have on campus. And program assessment, of course, all of these require some assessment to make sure that we're on the right track for development of our students. Some of my strengths, which connect me with the students and achievements, my top strengths: futuristic, ideation, positivity, and inclusiveness and woo. So I think that is what makes me really student-centered and bring students to our office and make sure that they're welcome in our office. I did get a, Shayla back there calls it a two-repeat of the staff member of the year, and last year I did receive the advisor of the year with our students. So I do focus a lot with our students, so I think they feel connected with our office and feel connected with me as well. I am part of some of the different community boards, like Zavala, Young Professionals, and a few other ones that I volunteer for. So I did go through the leadership class. Any of y'all go through leadership this year? Yeah? All right. Not this year, yeah. So yeah, leadership, which is the Falls class of 2015. And I was a charter member for Kappa Kappa Psi, the Gamma Alpha chapter here at Midwestern State University. So I really, like you see, I've been here for almost 10 years now, 4 years as a staff member, and I really enjoy the opportunity that I've had here at MSU, not only as a staff member, but as a student. I didn't go back to the Metroplex. I really enjoy Wichita Falls. I really enjoy the family that MSU has given me here, and these are some of the strengths that I like about the university itself and where it's going to, especially when you're dealing with first-generation students and first-generation Hispanic students, because I went through that experience, and I feel like now that the campus is looking to further on with like a HSI, I feel that this is a really great place for students like me to come here. So I think that is pretty much all I have. So I really want to thank y'all. Have any questions?
What's woo?
Woo. So woo is like my spiritness. So I really like to bring happiness to people. I don't know the exact definition of the five strengths. Probably Matthew does. I know that he trains on that one. But yeah, so I do win others over. I will say that I have a great personality in working with them. So I also talk really fast when I'm doing that. But yeah, I really hope that y'all like my presentation, and thank y'all so much for having me today. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez, and thank you, Ms. Ray. Our next item is 17-18, Student Government Report. Ms. Shayla Owens, SGA President, will present the SGA report. Ms. Owens.
Good afternoon. my presentation isn't near as colorful. But we've been really busy these first few months of school, engaging with students, meeting with faculty and staff, and crafting our administrative agenda for the 2016 to 2017 school year. So under engaging students, we've had a meet and greet with our execs, as well as our advisors. So Dr. Lamb, Matt Park, and Kami Dean are all three our advisors. So we have a day-to-day advisor, a little higher up, and then we have our administrative advisor that kind of helps oversee things like the Board of Regents. We also champion the Fall Leadership Conference, I lead. It's a conference to help empower the executives of our organizations here on campus. We do have 100, so it's hard to get them all in a room together and kind of help them center themselves around their vision of the organization and the vision of the university. So at that point in the year, we can kind of gear everyone up for the school year and get them excited for what their organizations are going to be doing for the year. We also had a late night breakfast with SGA and UPB. So not something that's work related, more fun, more informal. It was a time for us to meet more students and brand ourselves as a premier organization on campus, serving over 100 students in Legacy Commons, so the new space in the new residence hall. We also had the President's Picnic with Dr. Shipley. Unfortunately, it did get rained out, but we had a great time at Sykes Lake Center with the tricycle races and the great food that was catered by Chartwell, so we did still have a fun event. Within our faculty and staff, we have been seeing that they really want to see us on their boards that they invite us to. So one of the big things that I've been making sure that happens is that when they do invite us to come to their meetings, that we are present and that we're engaged with them and that we're there to listen. It's not our meeting, but we do want to make sure that they know that we're here as students, but we're also here for them as well. So we're always present at Senate meetings, the staff Senate, and we have met with different faculty on campus and kind of addressing their needs that are within our range of authority. I mean, it's a little small reach, but we do have a reach. And then finally, we have spent several hours crafting our key administrative agenda within SGA. So not necessarily stepping outside of us, but just within our office. This past weekend, we went to ASGA, which is the national conference for all student governments around the world. I was very pleased to see that Midwestern had a lot of things that other schools didn't have when it comes to their student government and their president. So one of the big things was that a lot of presidents don't get to sit in on their Board of Regents or Board of Trustees if they're in a system. So that was really great. So thank you for allowing us to have that privilege. So we have some things that we're working on within our year here. And one of the great things that I was able to do was be under Jesse before he left. And so one of the great things that he did was really working on branding SGA as that organization where you come to us if you have things that happen. And we really work on that chain of command. So when things happen with students, you talk to us and we move it up for you. Another thing is establishing a bigger voice. So what exactly can student government do for you? And what is it that we should be doing as student government? Lindsay and I have spoke multiple times throughout the school year, making sure that we're not overlooking what some students may be seeing just because we're not in that realm of the university. We also want to work on the efficiency within the organization. So just really working on that chain of command so that when things happen, you know, you see student government on it, and then if it needs to go to another part of the university, that we're that liaison throughout the university. And then finally, just stronger ties with our students to better adhere to their needs. Last year, we had a great year with policies. I think we passed about 5. 5 of them all needed monetary helping, so that's great. But this year we really want to make sure that we're focused on the students, not just what they need monetarily wise, but what are they needing in their classrooms, what are they needing from the faculty, what are they needing from the staff around campus. So if it means that we need to be open longer hours within the library, or that we need to serve different things in the dining hall, that we're really addressing those things and that we're using our power to help the students that are here on campus, as well as our distance ed students. So that's it. Do you have any questions?
You mentioned working with Jesse before.
Yes, sir.
So are you going to run for city council now too?
Maybe not in Wichita Falls, maybe from my hometown, but yeah, that's something I think about.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ms. Owen. Thank you for your presentation. Item 17-19 is the athletics report. Mr. Carr's report is in the board book and is presented as a point of information only. Additionally, last week, Mr. Carr announced his retirement following 10 years of service to MSU. So on behalf of the board, we certainly would like to thank Mr. Carr for his strong leadership of the athletics department. We are proud of our students, athletes on and off the field, and appreciate all that Mr. Carr has done for the athletics program. We will have opportunities to thank him as the year progresses and he reaches full retirement, I guess. But I wanted to express the board's pleasure at the work he's done to date for the athletics department.
He wanted to be here, but he's following the women, helping them, the women's soccer team get settled and progress in their championship, and then he has the men's soccer team later this weekend. So I said he's going to need to come back so we can thank him personally.
Well,
Thank you.
let it be on the record how much we appreciate Mr. Carr's contributions. Item 17-20 is the fall enrollment report. The fall enrollment report is shown in your board book. We had a slight increase in enrollment and semester credit hours production. Dr. Lamb, would you please review the report for us? Thank you.
So in your packet as attachment 1720, you do see the fall 2016 enrollment report. Notably in there, our head count did increase by 21 students. Semester credit hours increased by some 197. New first-time freshmen decreased by some 86 students. What you don't see in here is transfers increased by about 67. So new incoming students, about a net 19 below last year. Juniors and seniors increased as a upperclassmen, if you will, by 163 students. Entertain any questions that you may have.
Did this fall below your projection for incoming freshmen?
It did, yes.
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you, Dr. Lamb. This is presented for appointed information only and no action is necessary. Item 17-21 is a financial aid profile. During the special meeting and budget workshops in June, we asked for information on the profile of students who receive financial aid compared to our overall student population. The report is presented for our information in the board book. Dr. Lamb, please walk us through this information.
And so based on the request from the board, we thought about how to frame this or how to look at it. And so what we thought we would do is look at it by scholarship category, by institutional scholarship category. And we really have 4 broad categories of institutional scholarships or institutional grants. We have our merit aid, which is what you see on the first page here. Merit aid is aid that is given to incoming freshmen solely based on SAT, ACT scores, or transfer students solely based on transfer GPA. Okay, that's a fairly large sum of money, about $1.2 million that we give out in merit aid. And merit aid also includes subsequent years. So an incoming freshman, for example, that is awarded based on ACT, SAT, will receive that same amount of money for 4 consecutive years if they remain in good academic standing. So that $1.2 million includes that as well. So if you look at that, what we did is we compared, look at gender, for example, the first block there. Of those receiving merit aid, 62.6% are female, 37.4% are male, and so that will sum to 100%. And you can see how that compares to our overall undergraduate distribution. Okay, and so we did that for these different categories. We did that for gender, race, ethnicity, and geographic distribution. So you can see the merit aid category there. If you turn the page, another large source of institutional scholarship money is athletic aid. Last year, we awarded about $1.989 million in athletic aid. And similar to merit aid, you can kind of see how those were distributed compared to the overall undergraduate distribution on gender, race, ethnicity, and geographic distribution. So what we're really looking at with these pages are, do our recipients, are they representative of our student body as a whole, or is there anything we would not expect? The next page, activity-based aid, this one is not quite as large of a pool as the other ones. It's about $47,000. But it is an important one because this denotes activities that the students in which they participate, such as student ambassador, peer counselor, or our admissions tour guides. And so a lot of these are awarded or competitive based on application. So it's kind of an honor to receive one of these. And that's our activity-based. Our last page, need-based. And so as part of our financial aid package, we have tuition set-asides that are legislatively mandated. These tuition set-asides come off of designated tuition and are given based on need. Last year, we gave out in these tuition set-asides based on need about $2.346 million. So again, this is institutional money that we are awarding based on need. And you can see the distribution once again of those receiving the merit or the need-based aid compared to our overall undergraduate distribution.
Are there any questions?
I do have a question, but if I may, Mr. Chairman, go back to the previous agenda item 1720. You indicated that the number was below what you wanted for 2016. Have you all looked at what some of the reasons might be for the reduced number of incoming freshmen?
We have. Last fall, and so fall is typically your real heavy recruiting time for the following fall for incoming freshmen. So right now, for example, we're recruiting very heavily for fall of 17. So fall of 15, which would directly impact fall of 16, we had a number of transitions in the admissions office, and we had multiple individuals out on Family Medical Leave Act all at the same time, where so for a large portion of the fall semester, we had one admissions counselor, one recruiter, to cover our entire territory. And so we were very challenged in that regard, and I think that had a direct impact on it. When we were fully staffed in the spring, which is the heavy transfer time, that's when transfers are making up their mind, we did very well and we exceeded our transfer projections. And so we made up some ground in the spring, but I think it was due to our low staffing levels, chiefly last fall. I will tell you for this next fall, and again, it's very, very early, a long way to go, but we're running about 25% up on applications and higher than that on admitted students.
Okay. I asked because I know we talked before, maybe a year ago, I think, about the admission standards, and we voted on not lowering it to, I think, automatic admission to 25%.
25%.
Do you think that the staffing issue had any effect on our ability to go through those applications like we normally would, and maybe accept some of those people that might have been caught within that 25%?
I don't think it did in this case, because our staffing issues had more to do with our recruiters who are out on the road and not our processors who are looking through the applications.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Keep on that same note, like I know that you guys have done a lot of time in targeting areas where we kind of seen the influx of students that were biased, like the Houston area. Is that still something that we're kind of addressing in relation to how we send our recruiters in your time?
It is. Dallas-Fort Worth is still very, very heavy. This last class, the one for this term, I believe it was 36 or 37% from Dallas-Fort Worth, which is up slightly from what we saw the last couple of years. And so still very, very heavy Dallas-Fort Worth. We are doing more in Houston and in Austin in particular than we have in past years based on the numbers we've seen coming from there.
I'm surprised at the percentages that were referenced in addition to Austin, Houston, and San Antonio.
Yeah. We're doing less in some parts of Texas where we haven't seen as high of a yield, and concentrating those resources in some of the areas where we've seen higher yield.
Keith, what about the Panhandle? Do you go up?
We do. That's one of the places we're doing less right now because we just haven't realized the numbers from the Panhandle versus the personnel that we put in the Panhandle. And so we do a little bit there, but not as much as we once did. And we're concentrating more of that effort in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, Houston areas, and San Antonio.
Are there other questions? Dr. Lamb, regarding 17-20, 2021. This is the first time we've seen this information, right? And the first time you've gathered it, correct?
It is.
I think it's very impressive how it matches up with our population. I mean, you know, maybe you tweak it here and there and do some things, but I think it's really impressive that just here's what we're doing, and here's how it matches up with perhaps what we would like to do or a profile. So I'm very impressed with the staff and what you've done there.
Great. Well, thank you. Institutional research pulled most of that, so they did a very good job with it.
Right, but I mean, in terms of the allocation of the budget, how it matches up, that's the part I'm impressed with, that you've done a good job there.
Thank you.
Do you plan to use this data to affect what you're doing at all in the future?
Yes, and so Dr. Carlston earlier referred to the Admissions and Financial Aid Task Force, and I don't serve on that task force. He does, and some faculty do, and some of our admissions and financial aid officers do as well. And they will be able to consider this data in crafting recommendations, how we leverage our scholarship dollars and how we leverage admissions.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Our next item is item 17-22, the MSU Strategic Plan. Dr. Stewart is chairing the strategic planning process and provide an update on the process. Information is included in your folder. Dr. Stewart.
Yes, so if you would pull those two items out of your folder, they are stapled together, but I'd like to go over some things with you. They look like this. So I have a 26-member committee with representatives from all over the university. And of those 26 members, 14 are faculty. I have a faculty co-chair, Dr. Scott Meadow, who is our Bolin Professor of Petroleum Geology. And Dr. Shipley gave us our charge to take these strategic initiatives and develop a strategic plan for the university. So our 26-member committee got together and we took each one of the goals from these strategic initiatives and we divided into 4 groups. So we call them goal groups. And these were self-selected, so no appointments. And they all had an opportunity to choose whichever one they wanted to work on. We tried to convince faculty not to work on faculty issues and so forth, but of course we let them choose. The thing about strategic planning is that this is thinking for the future. And the way we operate is we operate for today. So to pull this group back and have them think about where we want the university to go in the next 3 to 5 years has been sort of been a task for us, but one that I'm enjoying more and more every day. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. We actually began in earnest about August 24th, and we pulled all the committees together and we said, start gathering information that will help you develop strategies for the goals. And we just sent them away and we said, you all meet independently and come up with information. And then we met about a month later and we said, we want each one of the goal groups to share with the group as a whole, you know, how has this process been going for you? What information have you gathered? What information are you missing? And we also asked the administration to be available to these groups to answer any questions they may have. Because as you know, we all work in our own area and we don't think about the university as a whole. And this is especially true for faculty because they're teaching their discipline and they're focused on their students and their research, but they don't look at the university as a whole. So this time they're having an opportunity to look at the entire university and ask questions. And this has been a very, very great experience. I would say a great experience for them because I asked them on our November meeting, I said, what would you like me to tell the board about this process? So this is what I'd like to tell you that they said to share with the board. Number one, that they learned a lot about the university and they wished everyone had the opportunity to be engaged in this level of discovery. Secondly, they wanted me to say that they needed, that MSU needs to make all this information that they've been gathering more readily available on our internal websites, or the goals of the units, the strategic plans of the units, because some of the information they gathered and they thought took too long, but actually it didn't. The third thing that they wanted me to share with the board is that don't put this document on the shelf once it's been generated. Make sure we use it in our decision making, especially for budgetary matters, because they ran into a lot of skepticism on campus about the use of the plan for the future. The fourth thing that they wanted me to share with the board is that we need to disseminate this to the entire campus with transparency about the process, which we will do. The fifth thing is, I said, well, how much time did you spend on this process? Add up your man hours. And so they decided, we calculated it so far, as of November 2nd, they've spent collectively 447 hours working on gathering information and developing the strategies. And finally, they wanted me to tell you this. They said that what they've been learning about MSU is that they've been learning about all the good things that MSU is doing and about all the great things that we are capable of doing. And so that's what I wanted to share with you about the process. Where do we go from here? We're developing strategies, and we hope to have our plan submitted to the president and subsequently to the board for review, but we'd like to have our plan submitted to the president in March of 2017. But I will share with the board that when we started, it was pretty foggy. They were just, and we wanted them to grapple a little bit with them. We didn't want to tell them the answers. We wanted them to get out, ask questions, learn about this university, benchmark us against COFLAC, benchmark us against Lone Star schools, benchmark us against national organizations. And when we came to our November 2nd meeting, it was like a breath of fresh air. They started getting it. They started figuring out what they were doing, and they were excited about this process. So if I can get 26 people in a committee excited about a process, I think we've done a great job. So this has been a really fun experience, and we look forward to giving you our finished product as we continue, after we've continued our work. So that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. So, Dr. Stewart, how do we weave, because this is great stuff, I mean, how do we weave that into kind of where do we put programs, where do we put buildings, the whole 9 yards? Something I've talked about a lot is how do we take these strategic initiatives and weave them into a comprehensive view of what we want this university to look like sometime down the road?
That's what we're working on.
Okay.
And we want to also, as a secondary step, tie it to budget. So we want to work on that.
So there is going to be connecting points for all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? No, thank you, Dr. Stewart, and thanks to all of the people who contributed to this and put a tremendous amount of time and effort into it. We look forward to hearing more as the process continues. Item 17-23 is the December 2016 graduating class. The administration recommends approval of the candidates for December graduation as they are presented. There are 490 students on the list as compared to 437 in 2015. Could I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the business of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. Thank you.
Let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll meet. Okay, we are back and we will move on to the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. The Finance Committee will now come to order. Our committee members are Mr. Ayers, Mr. Crosno, and Dr. Gibbons. First item is 17.24-24, approval of August minutes from August 4th. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I stand approved as presented. Our next item, 17-25, is a summary of financial support received in the last fiscal year and the current fiscal year. The board book contains reports in format we've seen in the past, as well as new reports and formats that were developed by the Office of the Vice President for University Advancement and Public Affairs. Two of these reports were left out of the original board book and were emailed to you, and those are also in your folder if you need to look there. Before I ask Tony to review and explain these reports, I want to highlight some outstanding gifts we've received since our last meeting. For those of you that were not at the ceremony, United Supermarkets committed to $1 million cash gift payable over 10 years for Legacy Hall naming privileges and establishing the United Market Street and Dallas Scholarship Fund. And I thought the ceremony over at Legacy Hall to dedicate that was terrific. And I know some of you were there and enjoyed it. This next gift I thought was really neat. For those of you that didn't get to read about it, Dr. Paul Bice generously contributed $20,000 to the President's Excellence Circle and a Bice Malley Sabbatical for the faculty of Thane College of Fine Arts and a Proco Yeager College of Humanities and Social Sciences, valued at $10,000. And that's basically the use of his residence in Maui. And kind of made me want to change majors. The Fairway Outdoor Advertising is an MSU Athletic corporate sponsor for fiscal year 17, and they've contributed $30,000 worth of advertising. Also, another generous contribution was $25,000 from Chris Honeywell for the Thane College of Fine Arts for scholarships and other needs of a mass comm department. Al Gwynn donated $20,000 for the Lane Gwynn Challenge to match new and lapsed donors to the annual fund. This next name looks somewhat familiar. The Dalquest Desert Research Station received $15,000 from Mr. and Mrs. Chief gets this right. Warren Ayers, yeah. That guy over there to purchase much needed equipment. So thank you, Warren. That's very generous. And Heart and Hell 100 donated $15,000 to the MSU cycling team. The support from our community, alumni, and friends continues to be outstanding. And Tony, if you would at this time, please review our reports and discuss our new format.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman Gregg. Pleasure to be here. A couple of comments before we actually start looking at the reports would be the reports that we're looking at are fundraising attainment reports. So that deals with one segment of University Advancement and Public Affairs, where our overarching goals really are involved with increasing the awareness of, the engagement in, and the giving to MSU. So that just kind of gives you that framework. As time goes on, as we progress through the years of this campaign, we'll probably be looking at some of those goals of how do we measure engagement, which is a little bit more difficult. Money is a little bit one of the simpler things to look at, just a kind of an overarching rule there. I'd also like to give a couple acknowledgments as we look at these new reports. And the reason I want to give the acknowledgments is a couple fold. One, they represent some of the strategic intent of why. They represent some of the history of why we changed some of the reports that we are bringing to you as a board. And they also acknowledge some of the players and collaboration that I've really appreciated my short couple months, here at MSU. First credit goes to Dr. Shipley. I think I was still even candidating when Dr. Shipley and I were talking about having some reports that were more relevant, perhaps more indicative of best practices. She charged us with creating some reports that were clear, concise, comprehensive. They would be campaign friendly as we're moving into a comprehensive campaign. They would also show quantitative goals and progressful goals towards date. And you can look at multiple time frames, whether it's month by month or in a longer frame as we get into the campaign. We'll look at those. And they also had to have some teeth to them, so to speak, as far as an accountability in that, where we declare where we're going and we including quantitative analysis of that. So thank you, Dr. Shipley, on that. Dr. Follet and Mr. Stovall in Business and Finance, great collaboration there. This is really important because finance and business is real important to us in fundraising, and I know it's important to you as a board. And we've got to give you the data and the reports that look at that inference between cash in the door, but how does it end up in the university? How does that general ledger reconcile to what is a pledge written? And all that has been very helpful, and I know Chris and Marilyn really appreciate your help there. Ms. Lee Kidwell in internal audit has been very helpful. Lee, thank you for your role in this. She's been a valued partner in best practices and governance. Mr. Barry Maka as well in that. Spent a lot of time with those two folks over there, and they're pretty enjoyable as well. A lot of times that's very important that all the people get at the table, and I think we've done a really good job of getting the people at the table that need to be there to get you something that's going to be more hopefully helpful. Also, a lot of people, a lot of institutions. I was able to kind of work through my professional network, did a lot of phone calls, set up some teams, phone calls with my team to meet with some of the people over phone, other reports, people, ladies and gentlemen that ran campaigns much bigger than the ones we have, and some smaller, to look at what's really best practices. So that's kind of the backdrop of what you're about to get. And the foot soldiers who really did all the work on the data really got to get some credit for Jane Enbrock, Beverly Stump, and Patricia Lowry, or Petey, as you may know her. This is all data that represents behind there. So let's look at the reports. You're looking at finance attachment 1725. The first report you'll look very familiar with you. It looks like the ones you've seen in the past. And this is the summary of financial support in Midwestern State University and the MSU Foundation, MSU Charitable Trust. I'm not going to highlight everything for sake of time. Certainly lots of questions. You can see the attainment there. Bottom line is the total accounted there is 5.648 million. Now, let's flip. Well, you should see the new format of reports conveniently done in maroon and gold, which is nice. The first chart you should be looking at is fiscal year 16 monthly comparison of cash and grants. This is one of the ones that I know that Marilyn's team is very interested in as well. You'll see there that we have a goal. We have a goal of, in this case, of cash and grants for last fiscal year that we just finished of $4 million. You can also see the various categories of the types of money that comes in. Pledge payments, realized bequest. Notice there's only one realized bequest in January of 2016. Gifts in kind, outright gifts for a grand total. We offset that with a comparison to the previous year as data in the fiscal year 15 total. So we get an idea of how we're doing year to year in that one category. Again, these are not comprehensive accounting reports, and those of you who are much more skilled than I am will know that in accounting. But it does give you an idea of the intent of that and some of the attainment. Notice in the bottom left-hand corner, we excluded these from, these were things that were measured in the previous report that you had, we just looked at. Outside sources of scholarship, what's that? That would be, for example, I was on a phone call yesterday with the Rotary Club of Bowie, and they want to start doing a scholarship again, and that's great news. Well, that's great, but we really don't raise that money per se, and we really, in best practices, would not say we probably shouldn't, take credit for raising that, although I want you to see it as board members because it's very significant for our students, and it adds up to be $887,000 last year, so that's significant. And alumni memberships, we just offset that. It's a little bit better not to count alumni memberships, by case guidelines. There's some debate professionally on that, but we're going to go on the conservative side of that. The next report is fiscal year 16 monthly comparison of new gifts and commitments. Essentially, think of this as the closest you have of the total fundraising activity. It represents the philanthropic cash in the previous gift, but it also adds two other categories to that. And that's cash, that's plus bequest intentions and pledges. And you can see the pledge activity laid out by month. You can see, for example, if you look in August of 2016, you'll see a total pledge activity of $1,151,000. Thanks to Dr. Lamb and many of others that worked over the years, Dr. Farrell, Dr. Rogers, that $1 million, that's where the pledge from Market Street shows up, for example. So we can look at that a little bit better. Notice, too, that the goal of the new gifts and commitments is typically larger than the philanthropic cash. And that's what you see, a goal of $5 million for the previous year, which will increase to 5.5 for fiscal year 2017. The other thing you'll see is that some of you who are very good with graphics and numbers will say, when I look at that progress towards goal of that 5 million, your chart doesn't go up high enough. You were 99.4% of the goal. Why doesn't that little red thing go all the way up to the maroon? And that's, again, these are at the time of printing, these are works in progress, and there's a little algorithm there that we've corrected since then. So in reality, we were 99.4% of the goal, not about 80.4, what you see there. The numbers are correct. The little histogram, the graphic is off of that, and apologize for that oversight. Let me pause a little bit, and perhaps before we go on to the next chart, if you have any questions. If not, we'll move on. The last chart you see is a pie chart saying the sources of outright gifts. And you can just see, read it your own, it shows where our gifts come from. Dr. Shipley also said our board and I would like to know where the money's coming from at any given time frame. This represents fiscal year 2015-2016. Noteworthy, that does not include gifts in kind or pledges. This is true outright cash. You will see, and I won't go over for sake of time, the same pattern of the new reports for the new fiscal year through September 30th, for your pleasure there. We basically will be able to check how we're doing on a monthly basis and a fiscal year basis in a little bit more comprehensive way. I'll take any questions that you may have.
One question I have, I guess, and it's more of an overarching question. Since you've taken over this mantle, are you feeling like you're getting responses in this new brand? Because it seems like for a while we've talked about what that brand is. Like when we talk about increasing student enrollment, it's been like people who don't know Midwestern, have experience with Midwestern, have no idea where we are in Great Iowa. Is that something that you're coming across as you're putting together this plan? Is the branding still an issue? Is it something that's...
I think branding, Mr. Sanchez, is a work in progress. We've made a lot of headstrong. We have a very, very strong brand in our immediate area. Very strong, very good knowledge. Not that we don't have perfection in that. I applaud the initiative of many who've gone before me. The logos here, the consistency of logos has helped a lot, in our branding. And kudos to you for doing that. It's a mixed bag on that. We have some work to do on that. Ms. Gaynor and I talk frequently about that as in the cabinet. And we'll be talking to you more as we go into our capital campaign. One of the offsets, Chairman Sanchez, I think we'll see of going in the comprehensive campaign is the brand, and because you're doing something transformational, the brand or the promise that MSU represents is much more salient at the end of a campaign, because we've engaged so many people in it, and they're going to see it from the marketing collateral to the promise of sitting down a student or a faculty or a community member. So there's a work in progress. I think there's a lot of great things going on in brand, but and we have awareness, but we also need a lot of work to do, especially as we get out of our Texoma region.
How does the pie chart compare with other, our other...
Yeah, good question again, Mr. Sanchez. Just looking at the fiscal year 2015-2016, you can see foundations at 51%, alumni and students 14%, friends 18%. Parents are not totally zero, it's just a rounding. There actually was $11,000 from parents. It sounds like we have the cheapest parents, possible. But it's just rounding anything below 0.5%. To answer that question, it's low. It's a little bit lower than what we would see. Foundations are higher, but the alumni and friends is a little bit lower than what we would expect when we look at some of that. But that's just 1 year. And that's the other thing about fundraising totals, folks, is that we want to have this as a baseline now. Good governance comes from good baselines. These reports will help us get what we call in the jargon of fundraising, good 3- and 5-year run rates. Any given year in fundraising, someone passes on a huge estate, maybe you worked on it, maybe you really didn't, maybe you're just the right place at the right time. You have a capital project, you're building a $33 million building, it's going to go up. But you need to look at 3 and 5 years out. We don't have enough data to fully look at that the way we want to, and that's why this is a good baseline. So I can answer that question a little bit better, Mr. Sanchez, in about 3 years.
Following up on Mr. Sanchez's question.
Yes, sir.
What should those numbers be if we were average or close to our peer group?
Well, it'll be, Mr. Ayers, I think you probably see alumni, and friends together, maybe it could be 50 to 65%. There's a lot of comparisons in the universities, and it could compare any year. It's very kind of difficult to say that. But as a snapshot of 1 year, we're probably a little low there, but foundations, again, are very, very high here, and many of our alumni and friends are tied to those foundations, and that's a very strength of MSU. So in some ways, it may not be as much of a weakness as we think it is, because if we look at the pledge payments and the money coming in from those foundations, we can see alumni and friends very actively involved in those foundations.
Well, I have a personal question, and that
Yes,
is,
ma'am.
how are you enjoying our community, and have they been welcoming to you?
Oh, too welcoming, Ms. Marks, too welcoming for my waistline, that's for sure. I mean, my wife and I, Donna, were like, where else have we had, when we moved in, where we get pies and cakes and flowers, and I mean, we've had people stop by, but not like this. It's been a wonderful time. Felt welcomed. The people here are even friendlier than other places I've been, including Southwestern Virginia, which is pretty friendly. And the commitment to this community and the beauty of this community. You know, I still think, where else can I see beautiful neighborhoods, a beautiful campus, and beautiful trees that stay green longer here, and I don't have to rake the leaves as much. And it's all within 5 minutes drive. Everything I go to is really within 5 minutes drive almost. It's very convenient. Thank you for asking that. Anyone else? Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, that's my report.
All right, Tony, thanks a lot, appreciate it. I might make a comment. The 0% parents, I can tell you, we parents do make a financial contribution. I believe it's called 2 weeks. Now, I might mention one more thing. For those of you that were not at the naming ceremony at Legacy, our president, Dr. Shipley, while she had a captive audience of the staff from United, did pose a question if they might have any interest in naming a football stadium on campus. Oh, that was pretty good. Okay.
The caption online. Well done.
All right. Also, you have, as always, a list of donors in your folder, as well as thank you notes and envelopes. Please take some time, if you have time, to write those thank you notes and any others you'd like to include. And do we still get, Gabby, pretty positive feedback from those?
We do. I think that people always appreciate hearing from the board, just like they do from everyone else.
Well, I think that's good to know because, you know, when we write these, we won't feel like we've made a difference. So that's
definitely make it.
Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Item 17-26, fiscal year 16 quasi-endowment fund reports. The end of year reports from the Revline Fund, the Harvey Student Development Fund are included in the board book for information purposes. The Revline Fund earnings were used to support the honors program and university scholarships, and the Harvey Fund earnings were allocated as well for university scholarships. Dr. Follett can answer any questions. Does anybody have any?
When it says transferred out for scholarships, did it go off into purgatory, or are they actually used?
They go into an account and then they'll draw down on them, and that's where you see the kind of the balance. So you have a remaining balance in there of $308,000 that wasn't even spent last year. So it's just showing you the transfer, and then it goes into that account, and so we have a little bit of a reserve in there right now.
Any other questions for Dr. Follett? Excellent presentation. Thank you. All right, this was a point of discussion, no action necessary. Yeah, you're not off the hook yet. Item 1727, Fair Labor Standards Act changes. Dr. Flay will provide information regarding those that are going to affect December 1.
Sure. So I don't know, the business folks here may have gotten information about the Fair Labor Standards Act changes that have been made. And basically what it is there's two classes of employees, exempt and non-exempt. The exempt employees are not eligible for overtime, and there's two tests to that. One was a certain level of salary, and then a duties test. So you had to be doing kind of management, executive level duties in order to be exempt or not eligible for overtime. The non-exempt folks only had to make about $22,000 a year. You didn't make that much, you could not be exempt, and you had to not meet the duties test. So your typical groundskeeper, custodians, secretaries, those kind of things are eligible for overtime. What the federal government did is they went in, the Department of Labor went in and reviewed that and raised the level that you would have to make in order to be exempt up to over $47,000. So they more than doubled it, which meant we have about 100 positions on campus that were exempt before. They met the duties test and they met the salary test, but now they meet the duties test, but they sure don't meet the salary test. And as you know, we just did a comp study, and we created a new pay plan, and we made sure everybody's titles and everything were what they should be, and then one position relative to another was accurately gauged on the grades and that kind of thing. So that was good that we did that before this Fair Labor Standards Act change, because we make sure that everybody's in the right place. So when this change came in, I think Angie alluded to it, Dr. Shipley went ahead and put a task force in place to say, okay, how is this law going to change what we're doing? And they reviewed the law, they reviewed the positions it would be affected by, and the cost to make any kind of changes. Because the only thing you could do is you have to bring up somebody above that $47,000 if you don't want to pay them overtime. And Angie can speak up here any minute. She was in the task force, and what the task force came up with was basically they didn't want to make any changes to any of the positions, and they believed that they could go ahead and just flex people's schedules, provide the comp time, that kind of thing. And we're going to kind of see where we are and see if that works. And Angie, why don't you talk about your experience in housing? Because housing was one of the areas we were very much concerned with.
Yeah, definitely. So we have already kind of started preliminary trying our flex schedule with our residence life staff, our hall director live-in staff they live here, they work here, they're here all the time, and they're also required to be on call at night, deal with incidents, do nighttime programming and things like that. So they were working well over the 40 hours and they were exempt. Now they're getting ready to switch to non-exempt. So we've worked on flexing their schedule as the hours that they're related in the office and giving them more available time to be able to have impact with students, to be there for student programming, to help with nighttime things. And it's been really successful in our department. It's made them not feel like they're getting overworked and underpaid. And so they've really enjoyed it and they've really excelled at it.
So I think one of the good things coming out of this is we can be assured that we're not overworking our staff. There is the question of they feel like, okay, now I'm a second class, person because I'm not exempt anymore. I have to keep a timesheet. But again, it's really to their benefit because they get their time off that they deserve to have, and we're not working them, 60 hours a week without compensating them for that. So we're going to kind of play it by ear. The other thing we're going to do as part of the recommendation from the task force is to do a timekeeping system. Right now, everything's on paper, and you have to go in once a month and enter your information into a electronic timesheet. But there's lots of people that are flexing their time and doing that. So they're going to have to be constantly writing down, okay, I came in at 8:30 and worked 2 hours, and then I left. And so to have an electronic time where you can do it with your thumb and just or go on your computer and just say I'm here kind of thing, and it would track it, and it would also track the state comp time, the federal comp time, overtime, whatever we've got to do, and we spend about over 400 hours a year, payroll does, tracking down people's timesheets, making corrections, of looking at them and going, oh, you didn't put this in right. So having that electronic timekeeping system is really going to be beneficial. We're hoping to kick that off in the spring, and we'll do beta and kind of roll it out to the whole campus over time. The students can also use it, so that'll be very helpful for us with students. So we're working on following the law, and it was very helpful to have the task force, and I think Dr. Shipley also appreciates their help on this, and so everybody kind of understands why we're doing it and the best way to implement it.
Well, I know at our firm, some of our lower staff who are overworked, we had to actually give them a raise to get them the 47,000 to meet the law. And my understanding is the law's been on the books since the 60s. They just never enforced it.
They've never increased that baseline.
Mhm.
The baseline is 22,000 something, and they haven't increased it in like 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's why it just kind of
Mhm.
jumped up, and now they're going to adjust that 47, 456 or whatever the number is every 3 years. So that was something we looked at. If we moved somebody to 47,456 to meet that in 3 years to keep them there, whatever it goes up, we have to give them another raise to get them up over that hurdle. And is that really fair to the other staff on campus to say, well, this group of people can keep getting raises, but the rest of you, you're just going to get whatever we can do as a campus. So, maybe we have to look at it 3 years again if there's other people that are falling behind, if it makes a difference or not. But I think the group really, considering how much work we did on the compensation study and making sure people are slotted where they should be and are getting paid what they should be, the FLSA kind of threw a wrench into it, and we just wanted to make sure that we were doing everything correctly and treating people well. And I think the task force looked it over,
And it may well change in 3 years too.
yeah, but it's been changing it right up. So.
I had a question. I think I saw in one of the news clips that Cindy sends out that admissions was an area which this would really impact because those people traditionally work long hours and are not really
So
not
Keith will talk
highly
about
paid.
how they're going to adapt to that.
Well, as you can see, it affects multiple housing's one of my areas as well, and so it's really going to have quite an impact on us. And yes, admission. So admission, they're driving, they're traveling a lot, they're attending shows or college fairs 2 to 3 times a day into the evening. They're texting prospects. They're looking at apps. They are, constantly on the move, and so it's a very, very time demanding position. So what we're looking at right now with our admission staff, and again, this will have a greater effect next fall because the heavy travel time is during the fall. So we'll be past most of the heavy travel time when December 1 rolls around. What we're looking at is flex time and time, maybe additional time off built around holidays to help them meet their time requirements. We are actually tracking it this fall, and from September until now, we are roughly 900 overtime hours that we would have to pay for our admission staff. No, 90. I'm sorry. 90. Take a 0 off of it. 90. But we're tracking that to try to give us a baseline.
Is that work on a weekly basis that you have to do that, or is it some other large weekly?
Weekly.
Okay.
Sunday, midnight, 12:01 to Saturday, 4 o'clock. So we get 40 hours for us.
Okay. Any other questions about a Fair Labor Standards Act provision? Okay, that was presented as a point of information only. We don't need to take action on that, so we'll go to item 1728, the financial reports. Administration recommends acceptance of the July 16 financial report previously distributed. Dr. Clay's summary report is included in board book and shall now provide preliminary information regarding the fiscal year 16 annual year report, which is also in your board book. Dr. Clay?
Okay. What we're going to show you today is Chris is just finishing up our annual financial report, and you'll probably get that in the next week or so. And this is going to be the same numbers that you'll see in there. I'm going to just stick to what's called the income statement and balance sheet for changes in net position and the statement of net position. So, and I'm going to do it on trend because that helps me see kind of relatively what's happening, and hopefully it helps you too over time how we're doing. So net income is the difference between revenues and expenses. So we'll go through each of those revenues, what revenues we brought in, the type of revenues, the sources, and then expenses, how we spent the money. So as you can see from this year, we're pretty much balanced. Our revenues pretty much equal expenses. We spent, I think, about $800,000, which you approved in one-time types of things, but otherwise we were pretty much balanced. Income sources, as you can see, the red line is our net tuition and fees, which has gone up over time, and the blue line at the top is our appropriations, which has gone down over time. So in the past, we were getting more appropriations than we were tuition and fees, and now obviously there's a big discrepancy between the two. State appropriations did go up this year, which we're very thankful for and appreciative of. Gifts is the other one that you can see. On average, it's averaged out over time, but it is kind of all over the place, depending on the big gifts that are coming in. In 2014, we got that big gift of software for $8 million. It was a gift in kind, so that's why that had a big jump there. Other notable things, sales and services has also gone up in time. That's your housing and food service revenue. And so as we have increased enrollment and increased students living on campus, that's going up. So I'd expect in 2017 you'll see this really go up because of our new residence hall. Okay. Payroll expenses. So I'm going to move to expenses now, and I isolated payroll because of the scale. It's so much bigger than everything else. It would have kind of dwarfed it. But you can see here payroll, we have gone up about 17% over the last, since FY09, which is about a 2.4% increase on an annual basis. But we've also added positions. So, 2% a year is not bad. It's a CPI. Payroll-related costs, however, gone up 77% in the same time period. And most of that is because of your health insurance for employees and retirees.
Marilyn, can I ask a really dumb question? Just on me. This is talking about July report.
Right.
Our fiscal year's August, right?
Is August 31st.
Okay.
Right.
I'm stumped as to why this is all through July then.
Right, because at the time I had to put that together, he wasn't done with it.
Oh, okay. I'm
Stuff,
sorry.
so,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Okay.
I wish I could have gotten it done in time, but he was still putting together the
I got you.
So the last closed month I had was July.
Okay, I get you. Okay.
So expenses other than payroll, the two big ones is depreciation is the light blue line on top, and you can see how that has kind of grown over time. And then the scholarships and grants, which is the red line. And in the past, from 11 to 12, that was the drop in Pell Grants. The federal government stopped paying for summer, and so we had a drop. We've gotten a nice increase this last year. We had Texas grants went up, and of course we've always been putting more into our merit grant program, merit scholarship program over the years. The other things that have been kind of going up and down is repairs and maintenance. The 14 and 15, that was our roof repairs that we did. So we had a major expense there. I think that's about it, notable. Financial assets. So now we're going into the, go ahead.
Can I ask a question on depreciation? I presume that we don't fund depreciations.
We do not budget depreciation.
Does that jump foretell some sort of significant expenditures the board may face in the future related to replacement assets?
Well, let me go back a little bit. Remember that $8 million software we got? It was depreciated over 3 years. So that's one of the big jumps. And now you see it in 16 it dropped down just a little bit because that's almost fully depreciated. So yeah, we had to take a couple. I should have said that. We had to take a couple big year hits on that normally.
But Marilyn, I think what Regent Krosno may be asking is, are we really taking care of our buildings as they age? And I've been impressed with the type of work we do every summer. So when you see Kyle present to you his schedule of repairs and maintenance, we could probably list the amount we're setting aside for that every year and apply it to appreciation in some sort of comparison to show the board what we're doing.
That's true. The depreciation is an expense off your capital assets, your buildings and assets. And so some of the repairs that Kyle does is expensed immediately, and so it won't help address the depreciation. It would have to be things that get
No,
capitalized.
I'm talking impact.
Yeah.
I'm talking, what he's asking
Yeah, no,
is a danger looming in that we haven't repaired the roof or things like that? And I think we could easily show that we're making the same actions visible as other universities that do fund
So-
depreciation.
Let me, because I hear exactly what Kevin's saying, and Dr. Shipley is outlining it perfectly. I think the board would like to see maybe historic repairs and maintenance and CapEx.
Okay.
So that we understand how much cash dollars, I mean, depreciation is not cash dollars.
Right.
And I think what Kevin's talking about is, look, if we have deep depreciation costs that are coming through, we need to understand if we have something getting ready to smack us in the face, whether repairs and maintenance or CapEx, doesn't matter.
Right. Okay, we can do that. Financial assets, so we're getting into the balance sheet part of the presentation, and, or your statement of net position, which is assets minus liabilities kind of equals your net assets. So we'll go through the assets, then the liabilities, and then the net assets. So your financial assets, there's financial and then there's capital assets that we'll go through. So our financial assets are made up of our cash, receivables, and investments. As you can see on the investments, which is kind of that purple line that goes way up and comes back down, we moved our cash here that we were keeping it overnight. That's when we moved it to A&M. So you can see this flipped up. And then that big jump up and down is our bond money that we invested, and then we drew down for Legacy Hall. So that's why you've got that big. And so we'll see another one, another spike, because we just did our TRB and we invested that $58 million that we got on the TRB. So at the end of 17, you're going to see it go up, and then it'll start coming down too. Student receivables, you can see at the bottom, have kind of been trending up too, and that's just a function of your increase in tuition fees. That's it. So now we can do the capital physical assets other than buildings and infrastructure, because again, scale is so much bigger on the buildings and infrastructure for the rest of this. The capital assets are your equipment and the software that we had is your intangible asset. That's this one that kind of jumps up and down. That's the software that's intangible. Construction in progress is the red, and you can see that kind of goes up and down as a function of what we're building. And once you capitalize it, it goes on to the building and infrastructure asset. So this is just what you haven't capitalized that way yet. So that'll go up and down as a function of your construction. Land, we got the land that we this is the museum, and it's been pretty constant. We did add a little bit of land with the house purchases. And then there's your building and infrastructure. And again, the scale is so much bigger than the others. And it's being depreciated over time, and then here's your big jump with Legacy. And again, we'll have another big jump as the HSH building comes on and the other projects come on.
So this is net of depreciation?
Net of depreciation. Okay. And then these are your current liabilities. Deferred revenues, when the students register and pay their bill, it's usually in August, but we really haven't earned that money yet. So that's all deferred revenue. And so that's a function, again, of tuition fees and our enrollment growth that's coming in. So at the end of August 31st, whoever's paid their bill, that's going to be booked as deferred revenue. Accounts payable, kind of is a function of what we're spending over time. Non-current liabilities is going to be your bond payments under the bonds. So as we got the bond for Red Legacy a year ago, that's where this jumped up in 15. Now we're paying off our debt service. It goes down a little bit. We'll have another jump when you see that TRB bond for this year's going to come on, so it's going to jump way up. Okay. And then, of course, the difference between your assets and your liabilities is your net assets. And so just to show you the difference between the two remaining position. So your net position's got net asset has three types of net assets: capital, restricted, and unrestricted. And the unrestricted, I think, is the one we're really interested in, that you've asked us for.
Thank you for separating that out.
And we'll dive down into that a little bit, and we'll provide you something in the AFR. When we send out the AFR to you, we'll get it broken out a little bit more, because I think that was what you're interested in, and seeing how much available and usable money we have. And that's your restricted rather. So capital's the difference between your asset you have as a building infrastructure and what you owe on it. So you can see we've got a positive net position. So in summary, we've increased our reliance on the student from their sales and service, tuition, and fees. Our gift income is pretty constant over time, but it does vary quite a bit. Our expenses are growing the fastest for the benefits, scholarships, depreciation. Some of the unusual occurrences have increased our assets and our liabilities. And we want to continue to invest in the capital assets to preserve our asset base and to cover the depreciation, which we'll do a little bit more on that for y'all. And so really, overall, I'm pretty pleased with the financial position we're in. We're pretty steady, and I think we're doing, the one thing is the debt. We're kind of getting up there on our debt. I'm not sure how much more we can take out on our debt, large projects and things like that. When we did our bond this go around, the TRB, that was the one thing we heard from Moody's and Fitch, but they also understood that TRB was being paid by the state. So they were very comfortable with that large debt.
When we issue a bond, about how long, what term do we normally try to go for?
This one is for 20 years. The TRB is for 20 years. Okay, any questions? Hopefully this helps you present it this way than just a bunch of numbers. I'm kind of a visual person too, and so I like to see the trends over time. And if you'd like to see something different in order to provide, on the AFR, let me know. But this to me is pretty valuable to kind of see the major trends. Okay.
And to that issue about the debt being up, I think we talked about this. We're probably done for a while with new debt, I believe, right? Yeah.
Dr. Shipley asked me to go ahead and prepare like a longer frame view of our debt and when some things are going to start rolling off, and so that you can know on some of these capital projects you'd like to undertake, what are we really looking at? When does the debt capacity open back up? And so I'll hopefully get that for you in the next program.
Okay. Could you share with us what an example of an unusual occurrence?
So your buildings, you're not putting a building on every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you'll see it jump every time you add a building. There's going to be a big jump.
New accounting standards also. We had to take $8 million and recognize last year through the GASB 68 implementation, which is related to underfunded pensions. We had to carry that on our books.
One of the biggest expenses you said was health insurance related costs. There's a lot of movement in how we address that on the public sector. Is there a movement on the public side? And like are there going to be options for the university, or are we just stuck and that's what we gotta?
We're part of the state of Texas, and we're under the employee retirement system of Texas, which they do all that bidding and pricing. And so hopefully, because they have such a big group, they're bidding that insurance out on, that we're getting good pricing, but they're still being woefully, affected by this whole thing. They're doing the best they can. I think this year we went up 11%, and you've heard some of the increases, with Obamacare. So 11% sounds pretty good compared to what some of the other insurances are going up. But they said it'll probably be another double digit next year too.
I heard Chris mention our unfunded pension liability. How big is that?
It was 11 million.
At fiscal year end August, it was 9.6 was our share. That's the university share. The state allocates that share to all school districts and universities.
But make sure Warren understands what our obligation is there, because this was a GASB implementation issue. And we had some conversation before you came on the board about it, and I think that it's important to note that we think, if I'm not mistaken, the state will fund that down the road. We have an obligation to put it on our books because that's what the rules say.
We have two types of retirement plans here. We have a defined benefit and a defined contribution. So the optional retirement system, most of the faculty or higher level executives may have, and we do a set contribution into an account and it gets matched. The employee kind of matches it. And so we have no liability on anybody that's participating in that kind. It's the other one that's the defined benefit teacher's retirement system. And so we send money to them, the employee sends money to them, and they annuitize it. And that's the difference, is what they've got. They're 82% funded, I think. So whatever that they, calculated that they don't have the money for into the future is what we have to book, even though we don't have really have the liability. The state is the one that set up that plan. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I do need to say I came from a state that just addressed this. And the reason we mounted a campaign to get the state to take the post-retirement benefits and address them is they stay on our books, and our accrediting bodies count those against us. And it makes it look harder and harder for us to get reaccredited without some sort of remark that we're failing to meet our financial responsibilities. So when I think UT Austin and A&M figure out what a big deal this is, they'll probably mount some sort of political campaign to get the state to begin to contribute to post-retirement benefits to get this off our books. Because it's new that it's on our books, but we're going to get blamed for it.
So that's a drop that happened here.
Yeah.
Look at that. The other, and Chris, you may want to talk about this a little bit, is they're talking now, GASB's talking now about us booking the liability on the retirement health insurance liability, which could be huge, which means this number could go down here if you've got a book.
There are no fiduciary plan assets for retiree insurance. Like their TRS has assets that are invested out long term, whereas with retiree insurance, they're
just keep paying it every year.
Is that our responsibility or the state?
That's our responsibility.
And that's both for current and retirees?
Yes, we pay the current employees and the retirees.
I've seen some of these peer reviews I've done around the country. I've seen some of these governmental entities where they've had to book their net pension liability where they have no help from their state, and it's taking their government-wide statement in that position from really good to really bad in 1 year. I mean, it's horrible.
Right.
But it's not a deal where they're going to go write a check tomorrow for it.
Right.
They'll pay over time, but they still have to book it, and it really makes it look bad. It's a bad
So
deal.
I don't know, Debbie, are they talking about in the legislative session about trying to address that 82% and getting it up higher?
Yes, but they did last year too, or last session, and I think they made a slight change, but it's still.
Yeah, the employees are contributing
Right.
now. It went
That was their
from
fix,
6.8
was
up
to make the
7.
employees pay more, but, and I think it's expected to go up again, so.
So it'll come more out of the employee's pocket, but at least it'll make this.
It'll make that.
How much is it costing us for retirement health benefits? You said we're bearing that.
We bear part of it. If an employee retires on the state, as a state paid employee, the state picks up that portion. But for employees that aren't eligible or that didn't retire on state funds, the university was responsible. Number off the top of my head, but I can give it to you.
Is it a big number? Your gut?
I'm gonna see if it's like $1 million. That don't.
But it's going to build every
No
year.
way it can ever go down.
No.
So.
Don't just keep going
Well, as
up.
people, go into post-retirement, which is,
Within the
pass
grant.
away.
She said with a smile.
Post-retirement.
Open over there.
At least you want to go after you've retired.
All right, any other questions for Mayor or Chris? Before we discuss any further, could I have a motion to accept the July financial report as presented?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we have motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. All right, 1729 investment report. Administration recommends acceptance of the fourth quarter fiscal year 16 report. Dr. Blake's summary is also included. Anybody have any questions on that report? Hearing none, we have a motion to accept the investment report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Sweat, you sound like you have.
Sorry, no, I'm trying to.
Oh, I'm
breathe.
sorry. Oh, maybe that investment report overwhelmed you.
No, I'm sorry, I was guessing.
Oh, no problem. All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I hear, carries unanimously. 1730 and 1731, review of personnel reports. Personnel changes for July, August, September are presented for ratification. Majority of these changes are related to positions being filled above or below the budgeted amount, overlaps with existing entering employees for continuity purposes, and a reclassification. Any questions regarding these reports? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve these personnel changes?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. 1732, gearing up for a comprehensive campaign. New position, this item outlines some of the background information regarding the comprehensive campaign, as well as the administration's request for new position. Dr. Shipley, please comment on this.
Yes, in order to forward the campaign, which always carries with it costs because you need people to do research about donors, you need to go out and find donors, you need to contact and ask for gifts. I have made 3 requests to foundations to support the cost of the campaign so that these costs don't come from donors. One of our requests has already been positively answered, and we'd like to apply those funds to begin to search for someone to assist Tony in looking for funds from donors, and that request is here, and I would appreciate your approval of that request.
All right. I apparently don't have that in my board book, but anyway, before we discuss any further, can I have a motion to approve this item as presented?
That's it.
So moved.
Second.
What kind of cost are we talking? Go ahead.
It's here under
Okay, go ahead, Warren.
I'm sorry, I don't have it for some reason.
I don't have it either.
Page
Oh.
2.
In the agenda,
Page 2.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
under
That's the other one.
1732.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not an attachment, but it's.
Oh.
The description of the
Okay,
position is
okay, thanks.
gift and planning development position, associate vice president.
Okay, so, administration is asking, for an anticipated salary of $9,000, $120,000 for this position. That having been said, anybody wish to ask questions, discuss?
I've got a quick question. So if this individual's gonna be here for the comprehensive campaign, what do we do with them when they're done? I mean, we expect the campaign to last 7 years, okay? But still, is there expectations this person will do something else once that is completed?
I think when you look at staffing over time, it will be liquid and flexible, and just as I've reduced staffing in my first year here, we'll be watching and reducing staffing as needed. Tony, do you have a different answer? If you have one, you need to come up here. I would just say that it's likely what will happen if we are fortunate that we will grow our finance, our advancement operation to need to sustain this, but we'll have enough coming in to make it a non-increase in expense. So I would say that we would revisit within 5 years the efficiency of this experience and see how we want to adjust. Is that an okay answer?
Well said.
Thank you.
I want to ask a question just to get through my head. What is this person going to be doing that Tony's not doing? just to be clear.
One of the main things we really need help with is what's called deferred giving or estate gifts. So right now, we have a history of advancement that's all about the money you want to give right now.
Mhm.
But there's so much greater depth in asking to think about tax benefits from giving, and we have no one really educated to talk to someone about estate giving and deferred giving.
So this is more for long-term
This will
giving.
be a bit of an expert that we can't get any other way. You can often see them on staff with a foundation, but our foundations don't have staff.
Mhm.
And so we need advancement staff able to do this. They'll probably be doing more research, and they'll also be on the road more. Every single advancement person is now required to ask for gifts, and they have goals that they have to reach. So this person will have some development work and some research work.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Oh,
I
sorry.
have a motion. Oh, did you? I
Yes.
somehow missed that.
Yeah, and Warren seconded it, yeah, Kevin made a motion. Okay. Okay, we have a motion second, all in favor? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries, and Mr. Chairman, that concludes the business of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. We'll move on to the Audit Compliance and Management Review Committee. Ms. Burks?
The Audit Compliance and Management Review Committee will now come to order. Members of the committee here today are Dr. Gibbons, Mr. Gregg, and Mr. Hessing. Is that by design?
There are.
The first item, 17-33, is the approval of the minutes of the committee meeting held August 4th, 2016. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, they stand approved as presented. Item 17-34, Committee for Presidential Performance and Compensation Review. Last year, we postponed our review of Dr. Shipley until May because it was her first year. Our bylaws require the performance review be performed in February, and we will get back on schedule in 2017. The bylaws also require that the Audit, Compliance, and Management Review Committee oversee this process. Dr. Shipley, would you please forward to the board your self-evaluation at least 3 weeks prior to the February board meeting? Additionally, since the Director of Internal Audits now reports directly to the board, it is suggested that we evaluate Ms. Kidwell's performance in February as well. Lee, since we have your audit plan and annual report with us, there is no need for you to provide anything more at this time. Are there any questions or any discussion? This item is presented as a point of information only. Item 17-35, Historically Underutilized Business Fiscal Year 16 Report. The report is shown in your board book as a point of information only, and Dr. Foley is available to answer any questions if anyone has anything. Any questions or comments? Okay, well, this item is presented as a point of information only, and no action is necessary. Next, item 1736, Compliance Activities Update. There's an update on compliance activities since the last board meeting was prepared by Chris Stovall, Comptroller, and Chair of the MSU Compliance and Ethics Coordinating Committee, and he's here to answer any questions. Are there any questions concerning that report for Mr. Stovall? Okay, the item is presented as a point of information, and no further action is required.
Am I the only one that reads all of this, and it seems like it just seems overwhelming to me?
Sure is.
Yes, it is.
Sure is.
Just wait. Item 1737.
No. Well, what?
I read that too. That was
Imagine how weird
I don't even understand.
Audit activities and fiscal year 16 internal audits annual report. Our Director of Internal Audits, Lee Kidwell, will report on audit activities and will present her annual report for approval. Ms. Kidwell.
Thank you, Chairman Burks, and good afternoon, Regents. And Kevin, I will not read the report for you today.
Thank you.
As Ms. Burks said, this is attachment 1737. This report fulfills the Texas internal auditing requirement, and under Texas Government Code Section 2012, it provides oversight agencies with the information they need, as well as
the Board of Regents in university management. The report was submitted to the oversight agencies in draft form, which is allowed to meet the November 1st due date, since obviously this meeting is after the 1st. Unless there's any questions, I've presented this and just request for your attention.
Any comments or questions for Lee?
So I have a comment. Do you feel like you're caught up now?
As a fellow CPA, I don't know that we're ever caught up, but I feel that the past due items have all been taken care
That's
of,
the
and that I'm
answer.
working in
There
the
you go.
current year.
Okay. All right, fantastic. That's what I'm asking. Good answer.
Could I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 16 internal audit annual report as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sure I'm focusing on the right one here, but in some of this stuff that I read, it talked about things that were supposed to have been done in February of 15 that we're now projecting to get done in February of 18 or someplace. Is there not penalties associated with being late about all this stuff or anything?
That's actually the next item.
Okay,
So
well.
if you're okay, I would like to discuss that in just
Okay.
a few minutes. But to answer your question, there's no penalties, no monetary penalties.
Well, we'll come back to that on
Yes,
the
it's a
next
risk
item.
and danger.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 1738 is Audit Report 16-1, Information Security Program Assessment. The executive summary and background information related to this audit are shown in the board book. Since this is an information security audit, discussion of the audit will be held in closed session as allowed by statute. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the business to come before this committee at this time, and we stand in recess until the executive session is announced.
Thank you, Ms. Burks. The Committee of the Whole and the Audit Compliance and Management Review Committee will now reconvene. Board of Regents will go into executive session to discuss items 17-03, real property, 17-04A, consultation with attorney regarding legal matters and pending and/or contemplated litigation, 17-04B, gifts and donations, 17-04C, personnel matters, and 17-38, deliberations regarding security audits as allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 55.1.071, 072, 073, 074, and 079. For the record, the date is November 10th, 2016, and the time is 4:52. Ms. Sparrow, Ms. Kidwell may remain for the first part of the discussion. Dr. Foley, Dr. Lamb, and Dr. Stewart, please stay close by so that we can call you in as necessary. Please stop the webcam. So the closed session is complete. The only items discussed were items announced and no votes were taken. We are now back in open session. The Committee of the Whole will resume. Item 17-03, real property. Is there a motion related to this?
I move the Board of Regents approve the lease of MSU property to the YMCA of Wichita Falls as presented.
Second?
I'd second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
No.
Opposed? Motion carries. The Committee of the Whole is adjourned. We'll now return to the Audit, Compliance, and Management Review Committee. Ms. Burks.
The Audit Compliance and Management Review Committee will reconvene. Item 17-38, Audit Report 16-1, Information Security Program Assessment. Is there a motion related to this item?
Yes, ma'am. The Board of Regents views information security as one of the top priorities for the university. I move that the board authorize the president and cabinet to ensure the implementation of all of the recommendations included in the information security assessment are a priority for the university.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the business to come before this committee.
That concludes our meetings today. I thank you all for your participation. Our meeting is due at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We're adjourned.